In 2045, Earth stands as a war-torn wasteland, humanity pushed to the edge against abominations born to exterminate them. The conflict is merciless. Troops crumble under the relentless advance, bodies falling in the frenzy of violence. Ruins sprawl across the battleground. Above the few survivors towers an immense beast, its eyes blazing crimson. A frightened young soldier freezes as one of its barbed tendrils aims straight at him and shoots forward. Before it strikes, a blade tears through the appendage, severing it in a clean flash and sparing the soldier. The monster bellows in pain. The savior, a hardened man wearing a military cap, throws himself into a vicious counterattack, shredding the monster's limbs with swift strikes. He dodges retaliation with practiced ease, draws a sidearm, and unloads bullets into the creature until it collapses. Once the threat is down, he orders the shaken soldier to rise. This man is Han Sung, supreme commander of humanity's final defensive force. The war has drained the world for decades, leaving only a handful able to fight. To him, the end of this nightmare feels close, and he readies a glowing device meant to secure victory. But a radiant golden circle suddenly manifests beneath him. In a burst of blinding light, he disappears, his rifle clattering to the ground. The soldier he saved can only call his leader's name in stunned disbelief. Han Sung reappears elsewhere, an abyssal realm chained by radiant bindings. Cloaked figures surround him, stunned that their ritual to summon a hero from another world succeeded. He struggles, confused and furious. An aged figure steps forward, greeting him and declaring that this realm needs him to crush the Demon King and rescue their land. Rage burns in Han Sung's voice as he demands answers, insisting he should be in Korea, not in some unknown dimension. The old man lifts a hand. A binding curse snaps tighter around Han Sung, flooding him with searing torment. His screams echo. The elder calmly explains that obedience ensures safety, then repeats the demand, defeat the Demon King. Only then, perhaps, they might send him back to his world. With a chilling, expectant stare, the elder asks for compliance. Trapped and racked by pain, Han Sung glares back, helpless and unwilling. With no other path, he gives in. Dragged into an alien world, he becomes the Empire's chosen weapon. His new existence turns into a brutal loop. Training, bleeding, fighting, never allowed to stop. 10 years pass like a grinding blade against bone. Task after task, battlefield after battlefield, until at last he slays the Demon King, Val Roar. Each night for that decade, he clung to the dream of going home. Finally, he believed freedom was within reach. Then, the Elder's verdict crushes him. The Empire's salvation is not finished. A new command is issued without remorse, and his long-awaited return is ripped away once more. Dissidents who resisted the Empire's unification still had to be wiped out. Their next mark was a man called Bottle. The old man swore that killing him would buy Han Sung his freedom, and the oath flared around the enraged, bound hero once more. Trapped and furious, Han Sung thought like a chained dog. Choices taken, paths decided for him. He spat curses at the men who'd made him a slave and braced for another fight. The scene shifted to the ruined Teutonia Night Kingdom, where Han Sung faced Bottle in brutal combat and finally cut him down. The dying knight called Han Sung a fool for serving the Empire. Remorse gnawed at Han Sung, who could only claim he had no choice. Blood stained Bottle's mouth as he offered a grim smile and warned that the Empire would soon throw Han Sung away too. Han Sung believed the job was done and that he would at last return home. But Count Brandenburg appeared and drove a sword into Han Sung's back, coldly applauding the deed. Gasping, Han Sung recognized his betrayer. Brandenburg taunted him for acting like the Empire's hunting dog. Breathing fast, Han Sung understood the promise of freedom had been a lie. Brandenburg sneered that they would never let him go and twisted the blade in deeper, declaring a hunting dog's only skill was biting. He turned away as Han Sung collapsed. As life leaked out, Han Sung cursed their treachery. With his final breath, he swore he would remember the shame and make the damned Empire pay with total ruin. At that instant, a sharp blue light burst from his chest. That night, one life ended and another began. He woke as a newborn, cradled by a beautiful woman who claimed to be his mother. Behind her stood a long-haired man. The reborn Han Sung felt a strange familiarity. He realized the man was Duke Saxon, the continent's greatest necromancer. It hit him. He had been reborn in Necropolis, the Empire's center of forbidden magic. A notice confirmed the Stone of Reincarnation had activated successfully. He reviewed the plan in his mind. The Stone of Reincarnation was a banned relic, a last-ditch gamble to steal freedom. The new body had been left to fate. Luck had fallen his way. He was now the firstborn of the Saxon ducal line, one of the empire's top noble houses. A private smile formed. He'd been born with a golden spoon. That fortune only fueled his thirst for revenge. He vowed that once he grew and mastered necromancy, he would exterminate every last bastard in the empire who had betrayed him. For now, his new parents worried because the baby would not cry. The Duchess, arms wrapped around the infant, turns to the nanny with a worried tone, questioning the silence. The nanny, puzzled but calm, notes that his breathing is steady, and there's no sign of distress. Duke Saxon mutters his unease, claiming a child who doesn't cry might be a bad sign. The nanny brushes off the concern, then casually suggests making him cry by striking his backside. Without hesitation, she swats the newborn. Fury flares inside Han Sung's tiny body, yet he refuses to make a sound. Both parents watch the stubborn silence, a faint amusement in their eyes as the Duchess remarks that the baby must have inherited the Duke's iron will. She gathers the child gently, stating she will try instead. Her hand lifts, but instead of pain, he is met with a warm, soft pat. That simple touch hits him like a shock. A lifetime of bloodshed, fear, and duty rushes back. Years spent fighting, always wounded, never resting, no tenderness, no softness. He tries to remember the last time he felt something like this, and fails. This hand trembles slightly, filled with quiet affection he has not known in ages. The warmth breaks through the armor around his heart. Han Sung, who hadn't shed tears since childhood, feels the dam crack. Under his parents' stunned stares, he finally lets out a raw, loud cry, an unmistakable wail of a newborn. 8 years slip by since his rebirth as Dale Saxon. In their chamber, Duke Alan Saxon and the Duchess remark on how quickly time has passed. She notes that since age 4, Dale has rarely separated himself from his books. He smiles, and she softly suggests the boy inherited that habit from him. The Duke admits their son has a keen interest in magic, but the Duchess grows stern, reminding him of the vow never to teach Dale necromancy. Meanwhile, in the Grand Library, young Dale, vessel of Han Sung, remains buried in studies. Back in the bedroom, the Duchess relaxes as Alan assures her he hasn't forgotten his promise, adding that he has prepared a special birthday gift for Dale. Suddenly, pounding at the door breaks the moment. A frantic maid bursts in, breathless, announcing that something has happened to Dale. The couple races through the corridor, calling their son's name with panic in their voice. They burst into the study to find him collapsed, surrounded by a burst of blue mana. The Duchess drops beside him, shaking, checking for wounds. Dale, dazed but conscious, insists he's fine. Duke Saxon remains silent for a moment, shock in his eyes. His son has already unleashed such strong mana. Despite the Duchess's alarm, Dale instinctively pulls away as the Duke approaches. The father looms over him, voice heavy, asking whether he just released mana. Inside, Han Sung curses himself. Revealing power this early was a mistake. Then everything shifts. The Duke's stern face cracks into pride. He rests a heavy hand on the boy's head and praises him, satisfied. Exactly what he expected from his son. He remarks that it is unfortunate he cannot personally train Dale in necromancy. Those words send a fresh wave of anxiety through Dale. If even the strongest necromancer on the continent refuses him, how is he supposed to carry out his revenge? His mother gently pats his head and sends him back to his room. As he heads off, he hears his father call his mother Elena and mention that he has finally decided on the ideal gift for their son. Not long after, Dale's 8th birthday celebration fills the estate. Nobles from the Noir Duchy crowding the grand hall. Dale sits on the second-floor balcony, staring down at the loud, bustling guests with an exhausted expression, feeling smothered by all the attention. Warm treatment feels foreign to someone who spent a lifetime as a tool, and the kindness unsettles him more than the noise. His mind drifts to the incident 2 days earlier, the surge of mana he lost control over. He has since figured out the trigger, reading The Life of the Hero from Another World, thinking about his old life, and losing control as the flood of memories stirred his power. He refuses to abandon necromancy. Vengeance demands it. He racks his mind for ways to persuade his father, reminding himself the Duke mentioned a gift, but asking directly for forbidden lessons feels impossible. Before he can go further down that line of thought, Elena appears, smiling softly. Beside her stands a hooded stranger. She wishes him a happy birthday. Curious, Dale glances at the concealed figure. The hood drops, An elf-like woman with brilliant blue hair and a calm smile stands before him. Elena introduces her as Sophia, an elder from the Blue Magic Tower and a master of the water element. To Dale's shock, his mother announces that Sophia will be his instructor. Sophia bows politely, and Elena gives her son a playful wink. Dale is left frozen. His gift is a blue tower mage. Water magic, defensive spells, support arts, nothing close to the destructive path he needs. His mother's intention is obvious: keep him far from the dark arts. Sophia requests a private conversation, and Dale agrees. Snow crunches under their feet as they walk outside. Sophia wastes no time. She states clearly she was ordered to teach him only water magic. She studies him and notes, almost casually, that he must be disappointed. She believes he desires a different path. Dale stiffens, wondering how she pierced his intent so easily. She smiles knowingly, saying it is only natural he would crave his father's craft, necromancy. Then she mentions something else, something the Empire knows well: the conditions tied to Duke Alan Saxon's marriage. From there, she begins explaining the origin of the Duke's vow. She recounts how, when Alan sought to marry Lady Elena, she feared his grim reputation. To win Elena's hand, Duke Alan swore never to pass his forbidden craft to any child they had. Sophia recalls the wedding clearly. Elders of the Noir Magic Tower dressed in white, sealing that vow as a sacred pact. Because of that promise, she explains, diving straight into dark magic will not be easy for Dale. Yet she leaves a door open, saying she will eventually find a way to sway Lady Elena. With a subtle, knowing smile, she asks if he is willing to follow her lead. Dale stays guarded. He questions her intentions, noting that as an elf, she should despise necromancy. Sophia finds the remark entertaining. To challenge his assumption, she points to priests who revive the dying through holy blessings. She asks whether he believes that is truly nature's will, conjuring an image of divine resurrection. To her, both acts, light revival and dark reanimation, belong to the same spectrum. Her perspective surprises Dale. Most elves recoil at darkness, yet she treats necromancy like another tool. He realizes she might actually be someone worth learning from. With that settled, she declares Lesson 1 begins now. Since he already possesses part of a mana circle, she assigns his first task: expand it into a full circle. Dale's chest tightens with excitement. This step forms the backbone of spellcraft. To him, this marks the true start of getting strong enough to take revenge. Sophia instructs him to place his hand over his heart and focus. He closes his eyes, a blue sheen swirling around him. This world is overflowing with mana. Without control, it overwhelms and destroys. To handle it, any living being needs a filter, a mana heart circle. The method is simple but grueling. Draw in stray mana pieces, gather them near the heart, bind them, and force them to spin in steady flow. Dale locks onto the idea instantly. He imagines it just as Sophia described: mana fragments pulling together, joining, spinning, until a brilliant blue circle forms, humming with energy. Still unaware of how fast he's progressed, Sophia calmly continues, urging patience. She says rotating mana usually takes a month, so he must not push too fast. Dale raises his hand and streams of blue mana move smoothly between his fingers. Calm, controlled, obedient. He states plainly that he already finished. Sophia freezes, eyes wide, stunned, speechless by something she has never witnessed. He formed a complete circle in mere moments, before training even truly began. Watching the crackling aura around him, she questions whether this child is a natural prodigy. Still reeling, she tests him further and instructs him to try releasing mana through the newly formed circle. Dale agrees without hesitation. As he gathers mana, Hansung's mind drifts between timelines, comparing the weak, branded magic carved into his flesh in his old life to the natural flow he commands now. Back then, all he had were destructive runes etched into his body, crude tools that never gave him the power he needed for vengeance. This life is different. Born with the Saxon bloodline, his body absorbs mana as if it belongs there. He becomes convinced that mastering water magic is only the beginning. He can reach beyond it, into every element if needed. He concentrates, pulling mana from his core down to his fingertips. A glowing circle materializes, and the energy hardens into a sharp crystalline missile. Inside, he swears this is only the first blade he will one day drive into the Empire's heart. A flawless ice bolt forms. Sophia watches, stunned. Where beginners normally lose control the moment mana leaves the body, Dale compresses it perfectly, stabilizing it into solid ice. He calmly mentions that because he focused on shaping the spell, its power might not be optimal. Then he fires. The bolt tears through the clearing and smashes into a massive tree, exploding it into frozen shards. Sophia's breath catches. The shot did not just hit, it pierced, split, and obliterated solid wood with frightening precision. No ordinary child could do this. Dale turns to her with an innocent smile, and she is hit with a chilling realization. What exactly is this boy? She kneels to inspect the shattered trunk, frost clinging to the surface. She had expected a clumsy blast of raw mana, not a refined spell that instinctively drew cold from the surroundings and merged it seamlessly into ice magic. It is basic magic in theory, but executed with impossible mastery. When Dale shyly asks if he did something wrong, she keeps smiling, though her mind spins. The formula he used was too perfect. Rotation, acceleration, compression, layered in the exact ratios required for lethal combat spells. Military-grade technique. The golden ratio, a core system only advanced battle mages use, woven effortlessly into a child's first spell. He calls her name again, pretending to worry, but she brushes it off. Inside, she finally understands why Lord Noir regretted being unable to train him. This child didn't just cast a spell, he demonstrated pure killing talent. Later, Sophia delivers her report to Duke Alan Saxon. He stiffens, confused as to why she implies she cannot teach Dale. To him, talent like his son's must be guided, not avoided. If the boy formed a first circle in mere minutes, then she should absolutely train him. Sophia remains composed as she explains what truly happened. The instant Dale completed the first circle, he immediately fired off a perfectly executed killing spell. The Duke freezes in disbelief. Sophia continues, stressing how difficult it was to accept that an 8-year-old could accomplish such a thing. She describes the spell, constructed using a military-grade formula and cast flawlessly in the golden ratio. Then she meets the Duke's gaze and states her conclusion plainly. Dale possesses a natural and deeply rooted talent for killing. The Duke hears it wrong and assumes she is refusing to train the boy. He questions whether a mage from the peaceful Blue Tower refuses to guide a child with such destructive potential. Sophia swiftly corrects him. If anything, she feels obligated to teach someone like Dale, to steer that raw power in the right direction. Just as he begins to relent, Sophia raises the subject of noir magic, noting that Dale seems to already lean toward a different path. The Duke's expression hardens as the implication hits him. His son has already begun walking the road of dark magic. Sophia speaks bluntly. She knows the story of his courtship, his promise to Elena, and she respects it. But she makes it equally clear, that vow does not grant him the right to cage a child's future, especially when that child possesses such overwhelming potential. While they debate inside, Dale crouches outside the door, trying and failing to hear. He lets himself slide down to the floor, certain they are talking about him again. He thinks back to his first lesson. Even he hadn't expected that spell to erupt with so much force. He remembers Sophia's stunned face and realizes he will have to suppress his power more carefully moving forward. A voice suddenly calls his name. He looks up to see a knight clad in polished armor and smiling warmly. Dale brightens instantly and greets him. Helmet. Helmet playfully asks why he's sitting on the floor. Dale teases him, asking where he has been all this time. Helmet laughs, claiming he has been busy defending the ducal house and slaying terrifying monsters, then lifts Dale into a tight hug. As he's held aloft, Dale correctly guesses that Helmet has been fighting in a dungeon. A brief sadness flickers across his face. He knows the danger his uncle faces. In this world, dungeons and monsters are relentless threats. Knights across every territory devote themselves to purging these places. But the Saxon Duchy deals with far more than any other region. The reason is tied directly to Han Sung's past life. After the hero brought down the Demon King, the Empire ordered Duke Saxon to seize the Demon King's former land, forcing him to subjugate the swarms of monsters lingering there. Dale mutters to himself, recognizing the truth with bitter clarity. In modern terms, the Empire simply dumped all the leftover problems on them. Back in the present, Dale gazes up at his uncle with sincere concern and reminds him to stay alert. Helmet looks moved, asking if the young master is truly worried. Dale brushes it off, noting only that Helmet looks healthy. The study doors open and Duke Alan Saxon steps out. Helmet drops to one knee instantly. The Duke acknowledges him and expresses appreciation for his efforts. Moments later, Duchess Elena appears, catching Dale off guard. Her face brightens and she beams at him, rushing over with excitement. Thrilled about the news of his first circle breakthrough, she kneels to his height, overjoyed, and he nuzzles her cheek affectionately. The Duke offers his praise as well and, feeling generous, tells Dale to name a reward. Dale freezes. He wants nothing more than to request necromancy lessons, but that would expose too much. He scrambles for something an ordinary child might wish for. Then, with a sudden spark of innocence, he loudly declares he wants a little sister. Both parents freeze, faces turning bright red. After a painfully awkward moment, the Duke clears his throat and mutters that they will do their best. Behind them, Helmet and another knight nearly burst, trying not to laugh. Later, Dale collapses into bed, worn out. He yawns, thinking about how exhausting it is to pretend to be a carefree child. His body aches from using magic for the first time, and he drifts toward sleep. Then the nightmare hits. He is dragged back into his old life, back into betrayal. Count Brandenburg's phantom sneer appears, dripping venom as it calls him cunning and mocks him for becoming soft. It ridicules his peaceful new life, accusing him of forgetting his oath of vengeance. The face grows darker, colder, whispering a threat. The Empire will come. They will hunt him. They will wipe him out entirely. Terror slams him awake. He jolts upright as raw mana explodes from his chest in a violent surge. Pain twists through him. He clutches his chest, gasping as blue energy pulses uncontrollably. His heart feels like it might rupture. He knows the symptoms. Mana rampage. Dangerous and unstable. Cursing the Empire, frustrated that old wounds still poison him, he staggers to his feet and bolts outside, hoping the cold night air will calm the storm burning inside him. However, stepping outside only worsens the situation. The mana rampage grows fiercer, his breathing turns ragged and his vision blurs. Just as he feels consciousness slipping, a calm voice notes that he seems to be in quite the crisis. Startled, he looks up to find Sophia watching him. She calmly identifies the rampage and casually comments on his terrifying talent, though she also admits there is something deeply dangerous pulsing within his magic. She approaches and presses a steady hand to his chest. Her mana flows into him, cool, steady, anchoring him. As she works, she silently worries that if the malice buried inside him ever erupts fully, it will consume him, and whatever he becomes afterward will not return. Under her control, the unstable mana settles, shrinking into a small, steady orb in Dale's palms. Relief washes over him. Sophia calls his name with a firm tone. She gives him a blunt truth. His magic is not meant for building or healing. It is meant to end lives. A gift that deadly is dangerous. Then she pulls out a thick, dark tome embossed with a pentagram. She says that a talent like his is exactly why she is glad she is the one guiding him, and hands the book over. Dale stares, stunned. Shadowy energy spills from the pages, and he recognizes instantly what it is. A necromancy grimoire. Sophia smiles softly and muses that maybe fate intended her to meet him. Then she quietly wishes him another happy birthday. Overwhelmed by her acceptance and the weight of the gift, Dale throws himself into her arms, hugging her tightly. Her face softens. She pats his back and teasingly calls him clingy. A few days later, Sophia leads him out into the snowy fields for another lesson. She informs him that today's targets are rabbits. He looks confused, but she confirms it and tells him to remember hunting alongside his father. Use that focus and apply it to magic. He nods, forms a circle, spots a white rabbit in the snow, and fires. The icy projectile slams through the creature, ending it instantly. Sophia watches with detached calm. Even after taking life, his hands remain still. No tremor, no hesitation. No guilt. She calls to him and begins teaching again, explaining that even when two mages cast the same spell, the outcome differs. She asks why. He answers honestly. He doesn't know. Sophia smiles and reveals the reason. Magic reflects the caster's mind. It is the outward shape of whatever sits inside a mage's heart, pulled into the world through mana. To illustrate, Sophia casts a gentle wave of water that swirls softly around her hand, finishing her point. Magic reflects the inner landscape. Dale listens in silence, a bead of sweat sliding down his cheek as he absorbs the weight behind her words. Sophia continues, explaining that spell names like Firewall exist only to help a mage stabilize an image. The great towers teach with this method, each shaping magic through mindset. She gives examples. The red tower's fire burns with aggression and destruction, while her blue tower wields water that flows and adapts. Every tower's philosophy imprints itself onto its spells. She mentions the other towers as well, noir, white, and green, each rooted in a unique magical ideology. Then she pauses, smiles faintly, and notes this level of theory might be too heavy for him just yet. With philosophy set aside, she shifts to his first lesson in true necromancy. A freshly slain rabbit lies before them. The most basic act, resurrection into undeath. Dale extends his hand. Dark mana streams out in thin tendrils, threading into the rabbit's body. He binds mana to spine, head, knees, key joints precise and practiced, and forces the corpse upright. The rabbit opens glowing red eyes. Sophia recognizes success and praises him. She asks if he's prepared for the next step. He responds without hesitation. This time, he must cast frozen armor on his new undead servant. He gathers mana, crackling blue aura swirling around him, and releases it. Ice erupts sharply over the rabbit's body, forming jagged crystalline plating. Sophia examines the result, noting its solid form and correct structure. She warns she will test it. A sharp ice bolt of her own tears across the snow and slams into the rabbit. The armor fractures at the strike point, but holds. The creature survives. Dale beams, thrilled at his success, exclaiming that he blocked his teacher's attack. Sophia nods in acknowledgement. Seeing his bright, hopeful expression, she asks if he wants something. He nods eagerly, and brimming with determination requests to be taught not only necromancy, but also proper mastery over his water magic. Sophia's expression barely shifts. She gives him a thin, unreadable smile, and answers with a single word, no. He freezes, stunned into silence. Sophia elaborates her reasoning. She notes that what he cast was still only a basic-level water spell. Water magic, she explains, demands depth. True growth comes from understanding its nature, not just shaping ice. For most mages, mastering even one attribute is already daunting. Handling two simultaneously marks a rare dual mage, something nearly unheard of for someone his age. From her professional judgment, his demand sounds less like talent and more like reckless ambition. Dale widens his eyes in feigned disbelief, twisting the word ambition back at her. Then, with wounded calm, he reminds her she once said they would walk this path together. His tone carries a hint of accusation. If she refuses now, she is breaking her own promise. The emotional trap catches cleanly. Sophia falters, visibly unsettled, unable to parry the guilt he throws at her. Flustered, she abruptly ends the lesson and walks away. That night, Dale refuses to let the answer stop him. He heads to the grand study, arms full of thick tomes. Determination burns in his eyes. If she won't teach him, he'll master both arts alone. He vows to prove himself so thoroughly that Sophia will have no option but to guide him in both water magic and necromancy. Dark violet mana erupts around him, swirling as it lifts both him and the books into the air. He spends the night locked in intense, obsessive practice. By morning, someone calls his name again and again. He opens his eyes to see Sophia standing in the snowy field, brows knit with concern. She points out his exhausted face. Dale puts on a cheerful mask, claiming he stayed up preparing something for her. She softly warns him not to strain himself, but he just smiles and insists he is ready. To prove it, he summons a dark magic circle and directs it toward the armored zombie rabbit. Sophia watches, impressed already. He mastered the fundamentals in one night. But Dale isn't done. The rabbit's frozen armor suddenly fractures, glowing brightly before detonating outward. Shards of sharpened ice launch in every direction. Sophia's eyes widen. An ice explosion spell. Advanced, dangerous. Then her shock deepens. The undead rabbit gathers a pulsing orb of dark energy between its paws. It fires. The blast detonates, and the shockwave drives the ice shards into a second explosive spread, an advanced chained spell sequence. Two-layer detonation. Piercing shrapnel. A killing technique. Sophia has no choice. She instantly conjures a hexagonal barrier to protect herself from the lethal barrage. As the debris settles, Sophia remains frozen in disbelief, her barrier still faintly glowing around her. Dale speaks evenly, explaining he fused two distinct spells, corpse explosion and ice explosion, merging dark and water attributes into one attack. To demonstrate, he raises one hand, forming a smooth orb of water, and in the other, conjures twisting dark energy. With an almost innocent confidence, he asks if that is sufficient proof that he qualifies as a dual mage. Sophia just stares from behind her shield, overwhelmed by the destruction he produced. She has never witnessed anything like it. A corpse explosion to maximize area damage, combined with frozen armor used as shrapnel, blasting ice and bone outward like blades. When the force of what just happened sinks in, she kneels in the snow, picking up razor-sharp shards of ice. This magic is not creative or artistic. It is built purely to kill, polished, efficient, merciless, the kind of technique forged by someone who lived and bled on real battlefields. She finds herself wondering what kind of brutal inner world a child must carry to produce spells like this. While she is lost in analysis, Dale's expression shifts, shock, then joy. He calls out excitedly as Helmet rides in, leading armored knights across the snow. Helmet greets Dale and Sophia warmly. Dale eagerly asks whether he has just returned from clearing a dungeon. Helmet confirms, saying his unit handled a pack of monsters. These are the Black Cavalry, Saxon's legendary elite, known for coating their lances in aura and led by Sir Helmet, one of the continent's 7 strongest swordmasters. Dale immediately seizes the chance, smiling sweetly as he reminds Helmet about the promise to teach him swordsmanship. Helmet laughs, assures him he hasn't forgotten, and rides off with his men, telling Dale not to freeze outside. Once they depart, Sophia says they should head back. Dale nods respectfully, calling her his master. That night, Sophia meets with Duke Alan and Duchess Elena. She delivers her report calmly. Their son has finished his first circle in both necromancy and water magic. Their reactions are immediate shock. The Duke reminds her they requested she teach him only water magic. Sophia acknowledges that, but explains that as his instructor, she was obligated to nurture the path he chose, and he desires more than a single discipline. Duchess Elena exhales and relents. She says that if Dale truly wishes it, Sophia should continue teaching him water magic. Sophia bows, accepting the responsibility. As she departs, she apologizes to the Duke for breaking her word. After Sophia leaves, Elena sits in quiet awe, still trying to process the reality that their son became a dual mage at only 8 years old. She whispers in disbelief, stunned by the impossible achievement. The Duke shares the sentiment, admitting that while Dale's power unsettles him, such ability is only fitting for their child. That thought stirs something decisive in him. He turns to Elena and declares he intends to teach Dale necromancy himself. He explains his reasons. He wants Dale strong enough to shoulder the burdens of leadership, and as a mage, he yearns for a disciple of such rare brilliance. But above all, as a father, he wishes to pass down his legacy. Emotion fills his voice as he apologizes for breaking the promise he once made to her. Elena listens, acknowledging why she always opposed necromancy, its reputation, the fear and rejection it brings. Yet, seeing his sincerity, her expression softens. She pulls him into a supportive embrace and tells him that if he is going to guide Dale down this path, then he must forge their son into a necromancer, strong enough to silence judgment itself. Moved by her resolve, he holds her tightly and vows to turn Dale into the greatest necromancer alive. The first day of Dale's official necromancy training begins in the underground magic workshop beneath the ducal castle. Duke Alan opens the session not with praise, but with a harsh reprimand. He demands to know how his son could raise the dead without understanding the very essence of the forces he manipulates. A lifeless rabbit lies on a stone altar between them. Dale explains he simply followed Sophia's methods, but his father snaps that such crude techniques are forbidden under his instruction. Instead of spells, the training begins with grueling study. Dale is sat before a desk, stacked with thick tomes, and ordered to memorize every skeletal and muscular system of living beings. Hours later, he has flawlessly learned every diagram, muscle, and bone described in the texts. Satisfied, Duke Alan hands him a heavy new book and announces that foundational study is complete. Now they proceed to practice. Dale's eyes widen when he sees the practice subject, a goblin corpse laid out for animation. The Duke smirks at his reaction. He explains the difference between amateurs and true necromancers. A novice can only make even the body of a master swordsman stumble like a zombie, but a true necromancer can turn a mere foot soldier into a death knight. He gestures toward the goblin, calling it a blank slate, an undead soldier waiting to be shaped, and challenges Dale to choose how he will bring it back. Dale inhales deeply and focuses, purple mana swirling around his small frame. He braces himself. This will not be simple. A humanoid goblin corpse is far more complex than a simple rabbit. With a sharp pulse of mana, Dale fires a purple strand into the body and begins forcing it to move. Every muscle and joint fights him. The process feels like guiding a tangled puppet with too many strings. Trying to strengthen it, he accelerates post-death stiffening. A mistake. The muscles harden, but the goblin locks in place, frozen and useless. A steady hand settles on his shoulder, his father's. Duke Allen calmly points out that while reinforcing the corpse was smart, stiffening destroys mobility. His eyes glow with power as he instructs Dale to watch. Dark magic erupts from his body, swirling violently as it engulfs the goblin. Dale can only stare, stunned. The corpse lifts into the air, bathed in a storm of violet energy. The Duke begins to lecture. Rib cages exist to protect organs, but the dead need no organs. The skeleton suddenly cracks and opens, ribs splitting outward into long, wicked bone blades jutting from the torso. With a cold smile, he gives the foundational rule. A necromancer must know the structure of the body and reshape it to serve their will. Dale stands frozen, sweat trailing down his face as he studies the horrific yet brilliant alteration. Standing beside the warped goblin, Duke Allen ends the demonstration. Mastery of anatomy and purposeful modification is the core of black magic. Shaken but driven, Dale lifts his head, a new determination burning in his eyes. He asks to be taught the philosophy, the mindset of the Noir Tower. The Duke's lips curve in approval. He kneels, meets his son's gaze, and speaks the creed. Truth rests in death. To reach it, one must fully grasp the weight of life. Those words rip open an old memory. Dale is no longer in the workshop. He is Han Sung again, knee-deep in a field of corpses and fire. A man kneels before him, begging. Han Sung raises a sword slick with blood and cuts him down without hesitation, the scream echoing. The vision snaps violently. Dale's composure collapses. Back in the workshop, his father calls his name, voice edged with concern. Dale stands pale, trembling, drenched in sweat, eyes wide with lingering horror. He forces out a response, voice unsteady, insisting he is fine. A flicker of his former life flashes, his hardened, unshakable self, and he repeats the statement with more force, as if trying to convince his own trembling body. Left alone in the dim chamber, he stands stiff and silent, the room seeming to tilt slightly while he repeats in his head, over and over, that he is fine. As his days of arcane training under his father continue, word spreads across the empire that Duke Alan Saxon personally began instructing his son in forbidden arts. The breaking of the vow to his wife becomes a scandal among nobles. Dale, once merely the Duke's heir, is now a topic of fascination and speculation among aristocrats and mages, a sly red-haired noble youth, a stern gray-bearded lord, even a cunning witch watch from afar, whispering about the rising dark prodigy. Weeks later, the focus shifts from mana to metal, and Dale spars with Helmet in the training yard. Wooden swords crash together in rapid rhythm. Helmet, a battle-hardened swordmaster, blocks each strike with relaxed ease, a confident smirk on his face. Dale refuses to back down, eyes sharp, studying his uncle's movements for even the smallest lapse. Helmet's grin deepens as he sees the determination burning in the boy. He lunges forward, and Dale slips past, launching into the air, spinning, and striking from a sharp angle. Helmet's expression breaks, pure surprise, just before the wooden sword is knocked clean from his hand. Breathing hard, Dale watches Helmet burst into hearty laughter, praising the exchange. Dale calmly observes that someone of Helmet's level would never drop a weapon so easily, implying that Helmet allowed it. Helmet denies it with a straight face, claiming genuine surprise, adding that Dale used killing techniques, moves that would have ended a normal opponent. The swordmaster shakes his head with a sigh, saying it almost feels tragic that such sword talent is tied to a mage's path. He tells Dale there is no need to push himself this hard. Mages always have knights to protect them. Concern settling in his voice as he asks why Dale strains himself to the point of injury. He kneels and carefully checks Dale's wrapped hands, urging him not to drive himself to harm. Dale looks down at his bruised palms and replies firmly that he has his reasons. A faint grin forms as he explains that the heir of a duke shouldn't rely solely on bodyguards and protective spells. And besides, he adds with smooth sincerity, it would be foolish to waste the chance to learn swordsmanship from one of the 7 strongest swordmasters alive. Helmet bursts into roaring laughter, declaring the answer perfect, and saying that if he had a son like Dale, he would die with no regrets. Dale grins and celebrates in his own playful way, delighted to receive such praise. But the light-hearted moment ends when Duchess Elena arrives, noting the lively mood between nephew and uncle. Dale greets her cheerfully and asks why she came. She smiles, saying she wanted to see how hard her son was training, and that she has news. Then she asks whether he remembers the gift he requested for his birthday. Dale pauses, thinking. Then the memory crashes in. That impulsive request. A little sister. His parents stunned, red-faced, speechless. His eyes widen in realization. Elena, glowing with warmth, rests a hand on her stomach and announces her pregnancy. She tells him he'll be an older brother soon and must protect the little one. Shock melts into pure happiness. Dale eagerly promises he will take great care of his sibling. 10 months later, in a beautifully decorated room, the Saxon family gathers around the newest addition. Dale leans over the bed, utterly absorbed by the tiny baby girl. Elena teases him, asking if she is that fascinating, and he nods sincerely. He reaches out, gently brushing her cheek, still stunned that she is real. He thinks she is unbelievably adorable. Seeing the awe in his eyes, Duke Allen asks if he wants to hold her. Dale freezes, flustered, but Elena softly places the swaddled baby in his arms. He steadies himself, surprised it isn't as difficult as he imagined. The Duke remarks that the child looks just like him. Elena notes that the baby cries whenever she holds her, but never once in Dale's arms, almost as if she feels happiest with him. Dale gazes down at his sister with gentle affection, but when his father asks how he feels, his face grows serious. He says she feels light like a feather, yet also incredibly heavy. Alan's expression softens. He tells Dale that he is feeling the weight of life, resting a hand on his son's shoulder and urging him to remember it always. Elena's cheerful voice breaks the quiet moment, reminding Dale that he has lessons and Sophia is surely waiting. Snow blankets the forest as Sophia waits patiently. When Dale arrives, she informs him that today's training will be real combat. He asks, a bit nervous, if he is really allowed to go all out against her. Sophia answers without hesitation. He is to attack with everything he has. Dale accepts the challenge and conjures a glowing blue magic circle. Sophia, water mana crackling around her like static, says she's eager to see how far he's come. Dale fires instantly. 2 razor-edged ice spears scream through the air. Sophia destroys the first effortlessly, calling it slow, then flicks away the second with casual precision. She holds a fragment of his shattered spell, a teasing smirk on her lips as she challenges him for holding back. Dale freezes, realizing she saw through him completely. Before he can respond, she warns him to raise a shield. A massive surge of water erupts toward him, fast and merciless. His eyes widen, panic flaring, but he reacts in time, forming an ice gauntlet that meets the impact. The explosion of magic rattles the clearing. The icy armor on his arm shatters, and he inhales sharply. If he hadn't blocked it, he might not be standing. Sophia smiles in approval, remarking on how quickly he shaped the spell. Dale steadies himself, refusing to retreat. Sophia tells him to attack again. Dale drops low, placing both hands on the snow, mana surging outward. The ground erupts. A towering wall of reinforced ice rises like a glacier between them. Sophia stops short, surprised. Why form a wall now? She notes the density is astonishing, picked clean of impurities and hardened through elevated mana compression. She touches the surface, confused by his timing. Was he stalling? Resting? Then she notices it. Mana flowing wrong, pulsing violently. She sees the layered hexagonal matrix, the frostburst structure, the fragmentation lines, a detonation spell. Behind the wall, Dale whispers one word with burning focus: detonate. The world erupts. A blinding blast of ice and blue light engulfs the clearing, shockwaves tearing snow from the ground. Sophia disappears in the explosion. When silence falls, Dale stands proudly amid the frozen wreckage. He calmly explains his spell. A reinforced ice wall, particles condensed and compressed into a volatile core, then detonated like an arcane grenade. He thinks to himself that dodging it would have been nearly impossible even for her. But as the haze clears, triumph drains from his face, replaced by dread. He spots what looks like Sophia, completely encased in ice. Panic hits him, and he shouts her name. But the real Sophia suddenly stands at his side, asking calmly if he called her. Dale jolts, realizing the frozen figure was merely an illusion. Sophia dissolves the decoy and complements his spell. Touching a thin cut on her cheek, she comments in disbelief that a first circle mage managed to land a strike on an elder of the tower. Dale immediately apologizes, insisting he never intended to harm her. To his confusion, she thanks him for it. The wound means he trusted her enough to go all out, and as his instructor, that fills her with pride. She messes up his hair affectionately and asks how he came up with such a technique. Dale answers proudly that it was possible because of her teachings. Sophia smiles at him warmly. Later, she reports to Duke Alan Saxon. He notices the cut on her face right away. Sophia admits she was careless, explaining Dale's spell was sharper than expected. The Duke's expression tightens. He says he is indebted to her. Sophia waves it off, saying, "Teaching someone so gifted is rewarding, not a burden." Then his tone darkens. He tells her there have been sightings of orcs crossing the mountains into Saxon lands. While the threat is minor, his true intention becomes clear. He plans to send Dale to the battlefield. Sophia is stunned, protesting immediately that Dale is nowhere near ready for real combat. The Duke cuts her off. Dale won't be thrown directly into the front line, he explains, but the duty of protecting the territory lies with House Saxon. And as heir, Dale must face that responsibility sooner or later. A powerful surge of dark aura flares around him as he speaks. Sophia recognizes he won't be persuaded and asks what he needs from her. His expression softens. He reveals his plan. Dale will be entrusted with one of the family's artifacts, and Sophia must help him master its power. Artifacts are legendary objects born with tremendous strength and a will of their own. They consume mana, or life, to function. The stronger the artifact, the more deadly the cost. Soon after, Dale walks alongside his father and Sophia down a grand corridor. The Duke explains that House Saxon has long mastered handling dangerous relics as they approach the sealed vault. He turns to his son, formally telling him that as heir, he must prepare for war. Shock flits across Dale's face, but it quickly shifts into excitement. Before opening the vault, the Duke gives one final condition. Dale must first learn to fully control the darkness of their bloodline. He swings open the doors, unveiling an immense chamber overflowing with artifacts. Dale freezes, breath caught. So many relics, each humming with lethal power. The Duke presents the Demon King's relics, treasures inherited after their ancestors seized the Demon King's land. He warns Dale to never place these in the same category as ordinary artifacts. Even from a distance, Dale can feel the crushing mana leaking from them. The Duke emphasizes how dangerous they are and commands Dale not to touch anything until he has proper control. But as he speaks, both he and Sophia realize Dale has already vanished. He turns sharply, panic rising, demanding to know where his son went. Moments earlier, Dale was already wandering deeper into the vault, searching for the right relic. Dark artifacts whisper to him as he passes. A shield promises slaughter. Rings and talismans seduce with power and ascension. They all thrum, reacting to the hatred he carries from his former life. Dale stops, lets the voices brush against him, then smirks. Too weak. Not enough for the vengeance he plans. Then he spots it. A black hooded cloak resting across a pedestal. A shadow cloak, once wielded by Duke Berta, elite commander under the Demon King. A relic infamous for giving shape to shadows themselves, turning darkness into a weapon. Without hesitation, Dale throws it around his shoulders. At that moment, Duke Alan and Sophia rush in, shouting his name in shock, but it's already too late. Dark tendrils lash out from the cloak, spiraling around Dale and yanking him into a pitch-black void. A voice booms inside the darkness, hungry, ravenous, demanding to feed. This creature is not merely shadow. Its former wielder bent the darkness itself like a living beast. To command it, the new bearer must crush the shadow spirit's will. Dale narrows his eyes with a wild grin. He understands the challenge and welcomes it. A monstrous mass of shadow crashes down, initiating the contest of souls. Outside, the cloak swallows him, forming a swirling sphere of black. Duke Alan and Sophia watch helplessly as it pulses like a beating heart. Time drags, tension twisting. The Duke's face darkens. He mutters that if this goes on too long, Dale's mind will break, and the shadow will consume him. Alarmed, Sophia asks what they can do to save him. The Duke answers they may need to rip Dale out of the artifact's grip by force. But before he can act, the sphere convulses violently. A shockwave of darkness erupts outward, and the black mass dissolves. Dale stands calmly in the center, unharmed, cloaked in shadow like it naturally belongs to him. He steps forward when his father calls, steady and composed. Sophia rushes to him, panic still in her voice, demanding to know if he's okay. Dale smiles easily, saying he's fine, that it only stung a little. Sophia stares, stunned. She can't fathom how a child endured the mental assault of a murderous artifact so casually. Having claimed his first Demon King relic, Dale turns to his father with a bright, innocent look and asks if he can try the rest. The request leaves both adults speechless. After a defeated sigh, the Duke reluctantly allows it. Overjoyed, Dale thanks him and runs off to explore the vault, a task that will consume the entire day and night. Days later, on the training grounds, Helmet stares at his nephew in disbelief, asking if the artifact he's wearing is really the shadow cloak. Dale happily confirms it. Concerned, Helmet reminds him that the cloak is notoriously brutal to control. Dale waves off the worry, saying it only feels slightly prickly. Then he jokes that maybe the cloak was simply lonely. To prove it, a tiny, sharp-toothed shadow familiar crawls out by his feet. Dale claims the cloak just wants companionship. Helmet bursts into laughter, calling Dale too kind-hearted. The little shadow creature emits an offended screech. With a smug grin, Dale thanks his uncle for the compliment, then casually stomps the creature's head into the ground. Brushing that aside, Dale tells his uncle he has a request. He wants a real sparring match as combat training. Helmet is surprised, but that shock quickly turns into pure excitement. He agrees eagerly, his aura erupting into a powerful blue blaze. The pressure hits Dale immediately. Facing one of the continent's 7 swordmasters is no small thing. Helmet notices his tension and offers reassurance. He promises to fight using only basic swordsmanship, no aura. Dale's expression tightens. Inside, he questions whether Helmet truly intends to hold back. Knights never willingly half-fight. But this time, Dale has his own plan. Shadows begin to seep up from the ground beneath him as he reveals his true purpose. He views the spar as a trial to wield the shadow cloak properly in real battle. The blades, fangs, and weapons he can forge from its shadows will decide the artifact's value, making this clash essential. Resolved, he launches his opening move, Shadow Blade Rush. A wave of jagged black blades shoots across the field toward Helmet. Helmet answers with a single mighty swing. Steel crashes through Shadow, erasing every projectile in one brutal sweep. Dale freezes, stunned by the sheer force. His spell was destroyed through raw strength alone. Helmet laughs thunderously, calling the strike excellent, then declares it his turn. He charges forward with frightening speed. Dale dodges the first swing and counters instantly, commanding the cloak's shadows to rise and coil around the swordmaster. Needle-sharp spikes burst from the ground, angling to trap and impale Helmet. Helmet barely reacts. Amused, he grabs one spike barehanded through his gauntlet, stopping it cold. Dale's eyes widen. His uncle's physical power is monstrous. Helmet rockets upward and comes down with a crushing overhead slash. Dale conjures a shadow shield just in time. The blow slams into it like a hammer to stone, sending him sliding back as cracks spider beneath his feet. Helmet lands, surprised. His full-force strike, strong enough to snap ordinary weapons, was blocked. Dale, meanwhile, grasps the gulf between normal arms and the artifact now bound to him. Fired up, Helmet demands 10 more rounds and they collide again. Nearby knights whisper in disbelief. Not one of them has ever survived more than 2 exchanges against Helmet, yet the young heir endures. The difference between them and Dale feels crushing. A few days pass. Night falls before deployment. Duchess Elena makes a final plea, saying she'll speak with the Duke again. She refuses to accept her child heading toward danger. Dale stands beside her as she holds the baby, trying to calm her fears. He reminds her his father and Uncle Helmet will be by his side. Still, worry clouds her face. His expression hardens with resolve. He says he must grow stronger, strong enough to shoulder the weight of his house one day. He softly pats his sleeping sister, explaining that soon he must protect not just himself, but her, and both their parents. That is why he must face this trial now. Dale lifts his gaze to his mother, eyes firm and earnest, and asks her to let him become someone capable of protecting her. Elena's tense expression eases into warmth, pride softening her fear. She yields, granting him permission. With her blessing, she sends him forward. Dale climbs onto his horse, promising he will return soon. At dawn, the temporary war camp stirs. Troops stand in formation, armor gleaming in the morning frost. Helmet reports readiness to Duke Alan Saxon. The Duke nods, then turns to Dale, and orders him to give the command to march. Dale blinks in surprise as his father declares the Black Cavalry will someday serve under him. These are his knights. A shift happens inside him. For the first time, he truly feels it. These soldiers are his, not Han Sung's, not remnants of another life. A new resolve churns in his chest. This will be his first true battle as a commander. This time, he will shape the outcome. He rides to the front. When the moment comes, he raises his fist and shouts the order. The swords of House Saxon are to advance. A thunderous roar answers him, steel raised high. They follow. The march begins. Plans are reviewed. 250 cavalry, backed by the elite Winter Wardens. Enemy force, approximately 1,000 orcs. The strategy, cross the lower river and strike by surprise. But that river is deep, vicious, fast. There's only one way across safely. A snowy mist swirls. Sophia appears, snowflakes orbiting her like quiet spirits. She steps forward and calmly creates an enormous bridge of ice, freezing the river into a glittering highway. Dale's heart lifts. His master came, despite her pacifist philosophy. She gestures to the frozen passage. The cavalry can now move. As Dale and the Duke ride across, she wishes them victory. The Duke thanks her. Dale glances back, calling out that he'll be going now. Sophia watches him go, no words left. Once he disappears into the trees, moisture gathers in her eyes. She laughs softly at herself. That boy never stops giving her reasons to worry. The battlefield. An orc encampment carved into a ravine. The first strike begins. From the cliffs above, the Winter Wardens release a rain of arrows, launching the ambush. A storm of fire-tipped arrows descends, igniting the orc encampment and plunging it into screaming chaos. Flames rip across tents and bodies alike, wiping out dozens in seconds, until a massive orc survivor bellows in rage. Helmet seizes the opening and orders the cavalry forward. The black cavalry locks into a spear-shaped formation and thunders downhill, lances lowered to kill. From a cliff, Duke Allen, Helmet, and Dale watch the clash unfold. Helmet asks Dale for his assessment. Dale studies the charge like someone who has witnessed countless battles. With aura-enhanced lances in Kull Lance formation, the orcs will crumble. He judges the assault to be a clean, decisive strike. The Duke affirms this is the might of House Saxon's cavalry. But Helmet warns him, this is only the opening phase. Below, the surviving orcs form a shield wall. The black cavalry slams into them like a hammer, bodies flung and shields crushed. Helmet quickly decides to pull the units back, regroup, then rotate charges until the enemy breaks. A magic flare signals the order, and knights begin withdrawing in disciplined retreat. Confusion spreads among the orcs. As the cavalry pulls back, one isolated knight breaks formation, trying to escape, and the orcs hurl spears, skewering his horse and sending the knight crashing to the dirt. From above, Dale's face hardens. He quietly calls it an unfortunate turn. Helmet remarks, voice flat, that a knight has fallen. Dale's fists clench. Why are they writing him off? Why abandon a warrior of House Saxon? A hulking orc strides toward the downed knight, axe raised. Fury bursts through Dale as he demands why they're simply watching. His father and Helmet offer no reply, stone-faced and unyielding. Dale understands. If he rides down, he won't arrive in time. He has one chance. Orc hide is thick. The shot must kill in one strike. He adjusts the base ice bolt formula. Sniper precision, ballistic stabilization, maximum penetration. A complex magic circle forms before him. His spell, refined and lethal. Ice bolt Barrett M98B. The moment the orc lifts its axe, he fires. A razor-thin beam of ice screams downward, punching clean through the orc's skull. Silence hangs as the body falls. Both Duke Allen and Helmet stare, speechless at the insane accuracy. The Duke finally murmurs in disbelief at the impossible shot. Dale doesn't wait for praise. He kicks his heels into his horse and charges into the battlefield. Helmet shouts a warning, but Duke Allen raises a hand, stopping him. With calm confidence, the Duke orders him to stand down. Let his son act. A proud smile forms as he watches Dale ride, thinking to himself that a child who can invent destructive spells this young must already have a nearly complete inner world. On the battlefield, Dale evaluates the new threat. More orcs regrouping. Two problems stand out. The fallen knight is stunned, not yet moving, and Dale's long-form spell is impractical at close range. He needs to compress his formula, stripping away excess steps like simplifying an equation under pressure. As another orc charges, Dale rapidly condenses his magic once again. It's still not fast enough. He refines further, paring it down to its most efficient form. With a sharp grin, he tests the new spell, Ice Bullet. An orc swings down toward the helpless knight. Dale fires. The projectile slams through the orc's skull, head bursting apart in a violent blast. The corpse collapses at the knight's feet. The knight stares up, stunned to see his young lord. Why would the heir risk himself? Dale dismounts calmly, telling him not to worry. He smiles, promising that House Saxon never abandons one of its swords. The knight's voice trembles with emotion. Then fresh roars interrupt them. More orcs rush in. Dale lifts his hand, deep purple power flaring. He calls forth the Shadow Cloak's might, Shadow Blade. Dark tendrils erupt from the ground, tearing through the charging monsters. With a cold smirk, Dale orders the shadows to devour them. One tendril severs an orc's head. Another shadow beast bites into another body and tears it apart. The last surviving orc trembles as a massive darkness vortex appears and swallows it whole. Nothing remains but a gleaming skeleton. Dale faces the final terrified orc with an almost cheerful smile and fires another ice bullet, ending it cleanly. A streak of blood lands on his cheek. He wipes it away without flinching. Turning to the knight, he announces the fight is finished. The knight stammers his name, still paralyzed by shock. He admits his legs won't move. Dale gives a strained but friendly smile, then simply lifts the grown man into his arms with ease. With a bright grin, he declares they made it. Helmet arrives with the Black Cavalry in tow just as Dale finishes. Dale glances at his uncle and states he'll leave the rest in his hands. Helmet, inspired and fired up, orders the battalions forward again. The cavalry roars in unison and charges, their battle cry echoing loyalty not only to House Saxon, but to Dale himself. Soon after, back at the Saxon encampment, the orc extermination is officially declared a victory. Duke Allen summons Dale into the command tent. His face is stern as he demands an explanation. Why did his son ride alone into enemy lines? Why risk everything so recklessly? Dale stands confused. He saved a knight, yet he's being reprimanded. Inside the tent, the Duke presses again. Dale responds respectfully, claiming he acted as a future commander should. Those knights are the men he will one day lead. The Duke dismisses the answer as weak. Dale is stunned. He believed his father held his knights in the highest regard. Dale gathers himself and asks directly, why did his father simply watch a knight die? The Duke explains the brutal truth of their territory. Monsters attack relentlessly. Their knights cannot survive if they fight believing rescue will always come. Dale argues he had hoped his father would save a loyal soldier. The Duke cuts him down sharply. By intervening, Dale planted a dangerous expectation that someone will come save them. How many knights with that belief could survive real battle? He lays down House Saxon's creed. Their knights must sharpen themselves mercilessly, pushing to the brink. Only when they have reached the absolute limit will their lord step in. That is the weight their house carries. Dale listens in silence. He admits to himself that his father's cold logic is right. He had forgotten that truth since being reborn. Then the Duke's expression softens. He places a hand on Dale's shoulder and says he was impressed by his resolve. He tells him never to lose that fire. Dale nods and salutes, lesson learned. The Duke announces it is time to return home. Word of Dale's rescue spreads quickly, twisting into legend. Rumors claim he single-handedly slew 1,000 orcs. Dale, mortified, can only hide his burning face, but the story ignites pride across the duchy. Days later at the training yard, Dale arrives to find a row of armored knights kneeling in his honor, saluting him with fierce respect. He flusters, insisting there's no need for such displays, but the knights stay kneeling. Helmet strides in with a broad grin, telling his nephew to stand proud. He calls to the knights, vowing they will all grow stronger for their young lord, and they roar in fierce unity. Dale can only return their devotion with an awkward, unsure smile. A maid steps forward, announcing the arrival of the Orhart guests. Helmet straightens and motions for Dale to follow. This visit is not a casual one. House Orhart, once led by the famed divine sword Bardal, belonged to the fallen Teutonia kingdom, ruined during the Empire's conquest. Dale sees Helmet's expression shift, sensing old memories stirring. Bardal had been the one to shape him as a knight. Knowing tension may follow, Dale and Helmet peek into the throne hall. Duke Allen and Duchess Elena sit in state. An announcement echoes as the Duke instructs them to escort the guests in. A veiled woman in formal dress enters with a young blonde girl. She introduces herself as Vanessa Orhart and bows deeply. She then presents her daughter, Charlotte Orhart, who glares fiercely, jaw clenched. Dale feels the air thicken. Charlotte snaps at her mother. Furious, she bowed, but Vanessa tries to hush her. Duke Allen raises a hand calmly, showing patience. He knows what House Orhart endured. To ease the moment, he asks Dale to guide Lady Charlotte around the castle. Dale bows, approaching the girl with a polite smile and extended hand. Her face twists. She smacks his hand away hard, shouting not to touch her. Shock ripples through the room. Vanessa, mortified, rushes to restrain her, pleading for an apology. Charlotte ignores her, gritting her teeth before storming out, slamming the door. Silence lingers. Vanessa bows deeply, apologizing again and saying her daughter has been unstable lately. Elena's concern surfaces. She gently asks what happened. Vanessa shares the truth. A new overseer, Count Brandenburg the Pig King, was placed over their lands. In his grotesque obsession with siring a successor, he hunts for anyone with great sword talent, and even set his gaze on her young daughter. She barely escaped before Brandenburg could lay a hand on her, but the terror remains carved into her memory. The Duke and Duchess listen in heavy silence. Vanessa explains she has no power left. Teutonia is gone, her title stripped, and begs House Saxon to take Charlotte in as a maid so the Pig King can never reach her again. Meanwhile, Dale spots Charlotte on the training field. He calls out, and she turns, eyes still burning with anger. He asks if she even knows where she's storming off to. She snaps that she doesn't care. He smirks and asks whether her hand hurts from slapping him. She coldly says it's fine. As she turns away, he sees the redness in her eyes. Beneath her sharp edges, she's clearly a frightened, wounded child trying not to break. Then her posture shifts, suddenly calm, sharp, and deadly determined. Her gaze hardens. She draws her blade. She demands a duel, ordering Dale of House Saxon to draw his sword. Dale just stares, stunned by the abrupt challenge. Snow drifts across the training yard as she points her rapier at his throat and commands him to fight. Dale answers with a smug grin, saying he'll need a reason. He mocks the rumors. Apparently there's a story of a boy who massacred 1,000 orcs to save one knight. She doesn't laugh. She declares she will defeat the so-called unmatched prodigy, to prove she's strong enough to protect her family from that man. Dale raises a brow and asks who she means. Her answer is cold and clear. Count Brandenburg, the holy swordsman. The name stabs into Dale's mind. Rage flares. Brandenburg, the Empire's animal, the one who betrayed and executed him in his previous life. To hear that name here, again, ignites a fury that shakes him to his core. But reason slips in. If she hates the same man, he may have a potent ally in her someday. Still, she's delusional if she thinks she can beat that monster now. He flicks her sword aside with casual ease. Then he turns his back on her and strolls toward the rack of practice blades. He picks up a short training sword and returns with a patronizing smile, calling her a clueless child. He invites her to attack with everything she has. Charlotte trembles with anger. She snarls that she intended to from the start. Her rapier glows a fierce green as she lunges forward, pouring all her strength into the strike. Dale meets her strike with a lazy block, the wooden blade in his hand deflecting her attack like it was nothing. Steel and wood collide again, force reverberating across the yard. Charlotte's frustration spikes. She throws herself into a wild barrage, thrust after thrust, parry after parry. Yet Dale remains composed, his movements sharp and precise, swatting away each attack without effort. As he blocks, he studies her. Her technique is genuine, sharp wrist motions, polished form, and even a faint shimmer of aura. She's forcing that aura through her weapon to make up for the fact that the rapier is too heavy for her young frame. She's talented. She's a real knight in the making. Their blades meet again. Energy bursts outward, pushing both back across the snow. Dale's eyes narrow. She really is strong. Charlotte senses she is finally winning in raw swordplay and charges again, confidence blazing. Her aura flickers bright. She lunges, convinced she has him. Her determination comes from years of burden. She never met her father, the divine sword, but she grew up hearing of his honor and strength. Her mother told her she must protect their house in his place. Even when their kingdom collapsed, she trained without rest. But fate has no sympathy. She keeps pressing, pouring everything she has into each swing, each thrust. Yet Dale deflects everyone like brushing aside falling leaves. Something is wrong. Why can't she break through? Why can he stop everything so easily? With a final desperate cry, she lunges. Dale flicks her blade aside with ridiculous ease and uses one clean counter. Her rapier goes flying. She drops to her knees in the cold snow, defeated, trembling. Her sword stands buried nearby as she whispers, gutted, asking why she can't win. Dale's answer is brutal and simple. She is not the divine sword. His voice softens. Her pride in being his daughter isn't misguided. But the truth is still the truth. As she is right now, she cannot protect anyone. Not her house, not herself, not against Count Brandenburg. That name crushes her. Her shoulders shake. She cries openly, voice cracking as she admits the truth. The holy swordsman is dozens of times stronger than she is. She lifts her wet eyes to Dale and begs to know what she's supposed to do. Dale answers, not with pity, but with resolve. He straightens, voice steady, and makes a declaration across the snow. He, Dale of House Saxon, will become the shield that guards House Orhart. Charlotte freezes, stunned. The vow knocks the words from her mouth. She doesn't understand why this boy would make such a promise. Dale lifts her rapier, holding it with quiet weight, and offers her that oath again, solemn and absolute. He pledges that until the day she becomes strong enough to slay Count Brandenburg with her own hands, he, and all of House Saxon, will stand between her and that monster. Charlotte stays kneeling, bewildered and shaken, asking why he would go that far. Dale offers her rapier back and answers without hesitation. Her sword is worth it. Then he gives his condition. She must swear to become a blade for him and for House Saxon. Charlotte wipes her eyes, breathing shakily. A faint, determined smile forms. She accepts. How could she reject such a vow? She takes her sword, kneels before him, and declares her oath. Charlotte Orhart will one day fight as a knight for House Saxon. It looks childish on the surface, two children swearing loyalty in the snow. Yet the conviction in their voices locks it as a genuine pact. Their breath hangs in the winter air as their futures shift. Later, in the Duke's office, everything is formalized. At Vanessa's request, Charlotte becomes an official maid of House Saxon. Duke Alan notices Dale's lack of resistance and raises a brow, asking what happened between them. Dale replies he made a promise and invoked House Saxon's name, swearing to protect House Orhart. The Duke's tone hardens. He demands to know whether Dale used their family name merely out of pity. Dale answers firmly, no. The Duke asks what he truly intends to gain. Dale's smile is calm and confident. Charlotte, he explains, is the last heir of the Divine Sword and already incredibly gifted. By binding their fates with a vow, he has secured a future asset. His goal? To forge a new Divine Sword, one that will serve House Saxon. The Duke is stunned at first. Then his sternness melts into pride. He praises Dale with a single word, good. Dale feels satisfied. He has brought the Divine Sword's final bloodline into Saxon hands. A clean victory against that wretched Brandenburg. Elsewhere in Malberg, the capital of the fallen Teutonia, inside the fortress of Count Brandenburg, chaos erupts. Brandenburg slams a wineglass to the floor, shattering it in fury. He snarls, demanding to know how Duke Saxon dared to act first and take Charlotte. A terrified subordinate stammers apologies as the holy swordsman seethes. Brandenburg slams his fist into the desk, roaring at his men, calling them fools who couldn't even seize one child. The trembling subordinate reports they did send assassins, but every last one was killed before reaching the Saxon estate. Worse, he adds, they believe Charlotte herself cut them down. Brandenburg sneers in disgust and dismisses them as worthless trash. He exhales slowly, stalking over to a lavishly displayed sword and resting his hand on its hilt. His eyes soften for a moment, recalling a good time. Specifically, the moment he betrayed Han Sung and plunged a blade into his back. Back in the present, he grips the holy sword Durandal and whispers if it agrees. Then his twisted grin spreads, vile and hungry. He calls Charlotte his lovely fiancée, promising his sword they will wait just a bit longer. He licks the blade, face warped with obsession, vowing he will produce the perfect heir for Durandal, no matter the cost. He turns to his subordinate and gives a new order. Contact the Thieves' Guild. Pay them whatever price they name. Send them into Saxon territory. Bring Charlotte to him. His voice drips with malice. He will have her. A week passes after Charlotte's vow. Life in House Saxon becomes her new reality. Harsh maid training during the day, and daily sparring sessions with Dale. On the training field, Helmut stands as referee. He asks if they're ready. Dale answers with confidence. Charlotte grunts, fire in her eyes. Helmut signals the start. Their blades collide immediately. Dale grins, dual short swords dancing while Charlotte meets him head-on. He blitzes forward with rapid slashes. Charlotte matches each one, blade flashing, footwork crisp. Helmut watches quietly, mind racing. These are children, yet their intent to kill feels frighteningly real. Their speed beyond ordinary trainees. The tempo rises, steel flickers, steps blur. Then Dale makes a sly move, grabbing his cloak to hide his sword angle. Charlotte reacts late, fury spiking. She thrusts, but Helmut appears in a blur, catching her wrist inches before her blade reaches Dale's face. He calmly praises them both. Charlotte scoffs at the compliment and demands to know where she's lacking. Helmet asks if she understands a rapier's core principle. She answers thrusting. Helmet answers bluntly, wrong. Its true core is footwork. He breaks down the final exchange. Dale sidestepped and closed distance. That was the moment for her to retreat and reset her line, not force a strike. She lost not in strength or spirit, but in movement. Helmet goes on, explaining that the more she stretches and retracts her arm with a rapier, the more the blade wobbles, ruining accuracy and dulling her thrust. Finally, with a hard stare, he delivers his verdict. She needs to rebuild her fundamentals from scratch. Charlotte freezes, cheeks burning with shock and resentment. Helmet doesn't let up. Her posture and footwork are sloppy. Charlotte fires back, saying she never had a real teacher. Helmet replies that she does now, and he plans to fix her bizarre stance immediately. Charlotte erupts in outrage, while Dale hurriedly tries to calm her. Helmet just laughs, saying she looked adorable when angry, making her even more furious. While they argue, Dale's mind turns serious. He watches Charlotte's raw potential, knowing she'll develop frighteningly fast under a true swordmaster. If he doesn't keep advancing, she will catch up and surpass him. The scene shifts to his magic training. Constructing mana circles is normally a grueling, decades-long process, but Dale is progressing at a pace that defies belief. Sophia stares at him, incredulous, asking if he's already finished forming his second circle. He answers yes. Circle strength is measured in RPM. A normal first circle mage sits around 300 RPM. Dale's first circle runs at 2,000. His second is already spinning at 400. And with the minimum requirement for starting a third being 300, he can already move forward. Deciding to experiment, he turns to his signature spell, Ice Bullet. He reworks the formula. Tighter molecular density for weight and durability. Magical barrel projection for spin and acceleration. Once finished, he targets a tree and fires his new creation. Ice Bullet, armor-piercing round. The spell detonates across the clearing, tree, roots, and earth obliterated in a violent burst of freezing force. A crater smokes before them. Sophia stares at the destruction, stunned, trying to process what just happened. Dale quietly evaluates the result. The power boost from an additional circle is enormous. Sophia's expression softens into pride. She praises him warmly, astonished by how quickly he grasps new magic. Dale modestly credits her guidance. Her eyes soften as she studies him. She recalls him saving a knight, guiding Charlotte, and acting with restraint even when powerful. He doesn't simply grow stronger. He uses his strength with purpose. She confesses that his power unsettles her at times, yet it only deepens her trust in him. Swept by pride, Sophia suddenly wraps him in a warm embrace, declaring he truly is her most cherished student. Dale freezes, face burning red. Inside, the older mind behind his young body spirals, utterly unprepared for this kind of affection, silently cursing the awkwardness. At sunrise, Dale stands alone in the snowy courtyard, still rattled by that hug. He mutters that she startled him, and wonders if she really just sees him as a child. He forces the thought away and refocuses on training. He summons a large, jagged ice wall as a target. Then he crafts a spell variant, a shotgun-style projectile. Ice Bullet, 12-gauge 00 buckshot. He fires. The ice round bursts mid-flight into dozens of sharp shards that shred the wall. Shards ricochet back. He calmly conjures a hexagonal barrier and deflects them. Satisfied, he mentally notes to try making a slug variant next. A voice interrupts. He turns to see Charlotte emerging from the snowy tree line. She says she finally found where he's been hiding to practice. He asks whether she's been training too. She nods, saying she's been drilling the footwork Helmet showed her. He comments that she seems to love swordsmanship. She flinches in surprise, then quietly admits it's true. She fidgets, struggling to speak, then blurts out an apology for her past behavior, saying she's thought about how rude she was. Dale immediately agrees, blunt as ever. She jolts in shock, mouth hanging open. Then he grins brightly and says he'll forgive her this time. He adds she doesn't need to be so stiff around him. She exhales in relief and nods happily. They stand together in the snowy quiet. Charlotte comments she loves this weather. She can train late into the night, and the cold clears her head instantly. Dale listens quietly. She smiles, realizing someone else understands. He smiles too, soft and calm. A peaceful silence settles between them in the winter air. Charlotte remarks that time moves quickly. From the castle in the distance, Duke Alan and Duchess Elena watch, the Duke noting how much their son has grown. Elena nods, remarking softly that the two fit together almost perfectly. She and her husband share warm smiles, deciding to quietly observe, Elena convinced that guiding her son toward his heart's truth is a mother's role. Time passes. The setting shifts. Narrow streets, worn stone, and hungry eyes. The slums. Dale narrates that Elena regularly offers aid here, food, supplies, jobs, and that this year he and Charlotte have begun joining her efforts. During one visit, a frantic boy rushes to Charlotte, pleading desperately. His mother is in danger, he cries, begging Charlotte to come. Concerned, she follows. Dale trails them, expression sharpening. The surroundings tighten into cramped alleys. Dale immediately senses the problem. No escort knights, too many blind corners, and a child chosen specifically to lure another child. Suspicion locks in. He spots movement above. A hooded figure on a rooftop. Thieves' Guild. Brandenburg's dogs. So the prey today is Charlotte. The setup feels almost insulting in how obvious it is. The boy hurriedly claims he will fetch his mother, then bolts. Silence falls. Figures shift from the shadows, cloaked shapes circling them. Their green-haired leader sneers, amused at the precious little nobles in territory they shouldn't walk. He tells Dale to step aside. They only need Charlotte. Dale steps forward instead, calm and smiling. A dark, fearless smile. He plants himself in front of Charlotte and repeats his vow. Dale of Saxon protects the daughter of House Orhart. Always. Mock applause from the leader follows. He mocks Dale's bravery, then warns that noble ideals mean nothing here. Pain will teach that lesson. Daggers appear in hands around them. Charlotte leans close, whispering that she left her sword behind. Dale sits down casually, as if bored, and tells her not to worry. Inside, he considers this the perfect chance to test a new trick. Shadows twitch. Assassins leap from above. A violent surge of dark purple mana explodes from Dale's cloak, a swirling storm of living shadow. The thugs stagger back, alarmed. The leader recognizes danger and yells for them to evade. Dale notes the quick judgment. This one must be higher ranked. Even so, one assassin is caught as the shadows spiral, gripping and dragging him. Dale coolly analyzes the effect inside his mind. This new technique came after forming his second mana circle, a way to embed parasitic shadow constructs into the wind itself. A monstrous shadow beast erupts fully into form, jagged fangs, animal muscle, and a hollow hunger swirling in its eyes. It dives into the pinned assassin's body, ripping soul from flesh from the inside. The man's last sound is a broken, choking scream before silence swallows him. The alley freezes. Fear spreads through the thieves' ranks. Shadows coil tighter around Dale, knitting themselves into a towering, brutish undead form. Glowing violet eyes, claws like carved obsidian, a guttural screech ripping the air. Terror paralyzes the attackers. One whispers undead as dread crawls across their faces like a cold plague. The leader snaps, shouting orders to kill it. Even he sounds unsure, his men advancing with shaking hands. Snarling, he chooses to strike personally. To him, even a duke's brat can't survive a skilled blade. He leaps, splitting into illusory doubles flooding the alley. Green aura flares, daggers burst forward in a deadly hail, aimed at Dale's heart. Dale doesn't flinch. Shadows whip around him like living shields, swatting away the blades as if brushing dust from cloth. The leader's face contorts. Shock, rage, disbelief all twisted together. Before the assassin can regroup, Dale stamps the ground. A bright blue array flares beneath him. He unleashes Ice Buckshot, his twin-barrel spell erupting like magical gunfire. The volley tears through the air, slamming into the leader mid-leap, shredding flesh and armor. He crashes down bleeding, stunned, barely holding consciousness. From behind a wall, Charlotte peeks out, voice trembling as she calls Dale's name. The alley has become a graveyard. Dale stands over the fallen leader, while his undead beast tears into another body, feeding eagerly. The leader staggers upright again, blood running, aura flickering. Dale notes coldly that aura users don't die easily. The thief chokes out a defiant threat, but doesn't finish it. Dale gestures. Shadows explode outward, blades of midnight shredding the thieves in an instant. Limbs fall. Voices stop. His undead servant finishes the last standing body, cracking bone in its jaws, roaring as it devours. Only silence remains. Broken bodies, frost, and hungry shadows. Dale turns away from the carnage, calm once more. He approaches Charlotte, who sits trembling against the wall. He crouches and asks if she's all right. She nods weakly, still shaking. Then, a scream. One last assassin, somehow breathing, runs in blind panic, desperate to escape the nightmare. Dale pays no mind to the fleeing assassin. With lazy precision, he forms an ice round beneath his heel and flicks it forward. The shot blasts through the man's leg, dropping him face first onto the cobblestone. The hulking undead lumbers over, seizing the crippled thief. The man breaks instantly, sobbing, begging, choking on fear. Dale approaches slowly, steady voice carrying more weight than the monster's claws. He commands the creature to return. It dissolves back into his shadow like a beast sinking into black water. The survivor scrambles for a bargain, promising information, everything he knows. Dale pauses, studying him. He asks if the man truly means everything. The thug nods desperately, spilling words, eager to live. Dale decides the trash before him has nothing worth hearing. He lifts a hand. A single shot. Ice shatters bone and skull. Silence. He stands over the corpse and states flatly that he wasn't interested anyway. A final blast of magic wipes away any remaining threat. Charlotte jumps at the violent finish. Dale turns to her, voice calm. He tells her this is the true face of Saxon's land. Cruel when needed, but powerful enough to guard what it claims. He asks if she fears him. She admits some fear, but says it doesn't matter. He did it to protect her. Then she repeats her oath. If House Saxon will be her shield, she will become their sword. She thanks him for giving her a future to aim toward, and vows to grow strong enough to earn it. Dale watches her, thoughts drifting. Part of why he accepted her oath was guilt. Guilt tied to Sir Battle, the knight he killed in his previous life. He realizes Charlotte's pledge carries a weight he didn't expect. Far away, Count Brandenburg rages. A letter burns in his hand. A summons to Saxon Castle to answer for the kidnapping attempt. Even the Emperor's cherished holy sword cannot ignore such an order. Days later, Brandenburg arrives. Duke Saxon sits on his throne, Dale at his side. He greets the Count formally. Brandenburg answers with false politeness, privately sneering at the children before him. The Duke speaks of the uproar in the Empire, the scandal of attempted abduction in his domain. The Count feigns outrage, wondering aloud how he, loyal sword of the Emperor, could be connected to something so disgraceful. The air shifts. Dark mana pours from Duke Saxon like a rising storm. A violent wind sweeps the hall as shadows coil and thicken. Brandenburg's knights panic, their cries swallowed as darkness devours them whole. In moments, the Holy Magdalena Order collapses, screaming into silence. Brandenburg recognizes the spell, horror dawning. Ryle's Tempest, top-tier dark magic. Duke Saxon gives a single command, kneel and remain still. Brandenburg snarls in fury, just moments before the storm closes in. He sits unfazed on his throne. The Duke answers coolly, asking if Brandenburg failed to hear the command the first time, and warning there will not be a second chance. Grinding his teeth, Brandenburg kneels. Rage simmers beneath his skin. Humiliation burns hotter than flame. He never imagined bowing like this. The Duke speaks for all to hear. The Count was summoned in the name of peace, yet should he ever lay a finger on Saxon's children again, the entire Brandenburg bloodline will be erased. His tone stays almost polite as he hopes the Count understands, then mockingly invites him to take a moment and warm himself before leaving. Brandenburg forces out a stiff reply, grateful in word only, then says he cannot remain any longer. The Duke dismisses him without interest. Dale watches quietly, realizing the blow just dealt to one of the Emperor's sacred swords will ignite turmoil across the Empire. Their role, he thinks, will be to cut off the head of the so-called Sword of Sanctity. By the time the capital learns Brandenburg knelt before the Black Duke, Duke Saxon sits in his office with teacher Sepia. He gestures to the corpses on the floor, the remains of the thieves who attacked Dale. He states plainly that Dale killed them. Sepia stares at the bodies, tension tightening her expression. She wonders aloud if her guidance warped him. The Duke insists otherwise, saying her knowledge is needed to channel Dale's potential. He offers her the role of chief advisor to House Saxon. The weight of the offer hits her. It means taking the Saxon crest as her own. He continues, Dale trusts her more than anyone, and shaping him is beyond his power alone. Sepia accepts, understanding that reading Dale's heart and motives is now her responsibility, and the fate of the realm may depend on it. Time rolls forward to Dale's 10th birthday. A glittering banquet hall shines with chandeliers and gilded banners. For the first time, nobles from the emperor's camp attend. Among them stands Marquis Ulysses, the Crimson Lord, greeting young Lord Dale with courtly words and a practiced smile. Around them, nobles praise the feast, praising Saxon wealth. Dale quietly studies the guests. These are the imperial core, the backbone of the emperor's faction. Their presence signals a warning. The throne is watching. They will not ignore the humiliation of one of their holy swords. And the Marquis, Dale realizes, is the messenger chosen to deliver that warning. Ulysses looks him over, voice silky, remarking, "So this is the famed child of Saxon." He introduces himself as the Crimson Lord, master of the Red Magic Tower, that brutal faction that worships strength and once experimented on Dale in his past life. The Marquis continues, saying he has heard of the prodigy, the boy who supposedly saved a single night by slaying a horde of orcs at age 9. The rumor hangs in the air, heavy, sharp, dangerous, as nobles watch, waiting to see how the young Saxon heir will answer. He offers polite thanks and hopes Marquis Ulysses enjoys the celebration. Then he turns away, already weary of the endless formal greetings. Birthdays like this always drain him. He would rather be training with Charlotte, but as an official lady-in-waiting, she must maintain appearances, and the daughter of the sword god cannot be seen drilling with blades in public. A sudden scream cuts through the music. A man's harsh voice follows, ordering someone to stay still. Dale heads toward the noise. He finds a weeping maid on the floor, pleading as a heavy-set man looms over her, threatening and grabbing at her while she invokes House Saxon's name for protection. The man snarls that a low-born servant has no right to say the Duke's name, bragging that touching girls is better than enduring a boring banquet, and promising to butcher her if she resists. Dale steps forward, voice ice-cold, demanding to know what the man thinks he's doing. The man, Pietro, startles, then tries to twist the situation, crudely suggesting the young heir has never tasted a woman and offering to teach him. He presses a knife to the trembling maid's neck, calling her just a servant. Dale ignores him, telling the maid, Eve, not to fear. He knows that in a stratified world like this, Pietro never expects a noble to strike a visiting dignitary. That arrogance gives Dale the moment he needs. A sharp burst of ice strikes Pietro and sends him crashing to the ground. Only then does Dale caution himself. Striking an imperial representative is a heavy move. Pietro climbs up in fury, and Dale orders him to kneel and apologize to Miss Eve, stating she is under the protection of House Saxon. Pietro sputters, claiming imperial authority, and arguing that defending a maid against him is practically treason. Dale cuts him off, voice dripping venom. "So does the Emperor enjoy assaulting other people's maids?" Pietro freezes, shocked at the accusation. Just then, Duke Saxon, Marquis Ulysses, and the nobles arrive. Ulysses studies the scene, amused, calling it an interesting sight. The Duke asks what happened. Dale answers evenly. Pietro attempted to violate a maid of House Saxon. A scoffing noble questions whether Dale would truly shame Sir Pietro over something so minor. Pietro quickly tries to seize the moment, whining to the Duke, but Dale silences him sharply, demanding to know who gave him permission to stand. Then Dale turns to address all present. Nobles of the imperial capital, he reminds them, represent the emperor himself. So Pietro's attempt to force himself on a servant does not only disgrace House Saxon, it stains the emperor's name. A hush falls. Marquis Ulysses breaks into laughter, applauding the logic. He declares the young lord's reasoning flawless, and mocks Pietro in front of everyone. How dare someone representing His Majesty dirty royal honor by preying on a maid? Ulysses snaps an order to his attendant, who moves on Pietro like a blade. Pietro screams for mercy as fire erupts across his body, flesh sizzling under the Crimson Lord's attack. Ulysses proclaims the young lord's logic flawless, declaring it the Empire's duty to incinerate vermin who sully imperial honor. With a final, lofty nod to Dale's future, the Marquis closes the scene. When the imperial retinue finally departs, calm returns to Saxon Castle. The next morning, Maid Eve wakes the young lord. Dale thanks her, sensing her hesitation. She shyly admits she is proud to serve him. He notes the awkward deference. He has lived in this world long enough to know what the Saxon name carries, and steels himself to use every tool at his disposal against the Empire. Later, the Duke summons him to the study, remarking that Dale's recent behavior has been unusual. Dale counters by asking whether the Duke had ever considered that, if the otherworldly hero had survived, the Duchy of Saxon would have been the Empire's next target. The Duke reacts with surprise and asks how he could be so certain. Dale hesitates, then explains his reasoning. In his past life, he heard whispers of imperial schemes against House Saxon. He suggests the Empire disposed of the hero to prevent an uncontrollable hunting dog. Even after the hero defeated the Demon King, the Empire left the Demon King's lands steeped in darkness, then forced the Saxons to reclaim and drain those territories, bleeding them dry. Dale concludes that the same pattern of elimination will be aimed at the Saxons themselves. The Duke presses him. How did he learn the hero was set aside? Dale admits it's an inference from inconsistencies in the official account. Honorable death doesn't match the evidence he's read. He argues that if his suspicion holds, imperial justice is merely tyranny. Impressed by the breadth of his son's thought, the Duke asks what House Saxon should do. Dale answers bluntly, they must destroy the Empire. The Duke balks at the enormity of the claim. Dale clarifies he is not calling for immediate rebellion, but for a strategy staged over 10 years. Covertly aid resistance movements, build strength, and exploit the Empire's mounting weaknesses, economic contraction, rising banditry, and the scars of continuous war. He outlines a long-term plan, speaking until sunset, then asks for his father's verdict. The Duke laughs, part incredulous, part filled with pride, calling his son's vision boundless and noting that Dale sees farther than he ever could. He swears to treat him not as a child, but as the heir apparent. Dale senses the moment he'd longed for, the right to wield House Saxon's authority. The Duke leans forward and asks him to declare the decision he will make for their family. He smiles faintly, reminding the Duke that he had promised to treat him as an equal, and formally requests permission to enter the tower trial in Necropolis. The Duke's composure cracks. Necropolis is infamous, a place where even seasoned mages die, and Dale hasn't even finished forming his third circle. Dale responds with calm certainty. He will reach it soon. The Duke reminds him the third circle normally isn't achieved until one's mid-20s. Still, Dale stands firm, stating this choice concerns him, his father, and House Saxon's future. If he survives the trial, he argues, the Duke's standing will strengthen, and his own reputation will become unshakable. The Duke, after a moment of serious thought, entrusts the judgment to his son. A few days later, they arrive in Necropolis. Dale stifles a yawn, realizing he pushed himself too hard. Town residents whisper, some curious if the child prodigy rumors are true, others mocking his tired appearance. Felix, the top academy graduate, sneers loudly, claiming the victory should be his, not some noble brat. At the tower entrance, Elder Iris greets the Duke and Dale. The Duke explains Iris will oversee him through the trial. She leads Dale into a vast chamber filled with 59 other graduates. Iris welcomes the group and explains the first floor challenge, a battle royale theft of life points. Each participant carries a pendant with 1 point and a shield. Destroying another's pendant adds to their total. 3 points means advancement. Artifacts are forbidden. Whispers ripple around Dale. Third circle at his age, a monster, an anomaly. Felix rallies others to target him first. Someone hesitates, worried about striking a Duke's heir, but Felix dismisses it, insisting the exam treats them all equally. Dale hears everything and quietly notes their bravado. The test begins. Dozens of undead lurch to life under their command. Dale remains still, unhurried. Felix sends his corpse soldier to strike first, and freezes when Dale's undead blocks and counters effortlessly. Ice spreads, the corpse stiffens, and shatters cleanly apart. Felix erupts, accusing him of cheating by using water magic. Dale turns to Iris and asks, level-voiced, whether the rules state undead must only be augmented with dark mana. Iris offers no reply. Dale takes the silence as confirmation. He has done nothing wrong. Felix commands his allies to restrain Dale's ice-reinforced corpse while they strike Dale directly. Dale decides that since artifacts are forbidden, he will fight with his own hands. He rushes straight into the swarm of undead, slipping through attacks with smooth footwork and ripping a sword from one of them mid-motion. A burst of black mana surges through his fist as he slams it into one undead. Then he slices through another with casual precision. One participant freezes in disbelief at how easily his undead soldier was cut apart. Felix stares at Dale's blade, convinced it cannot be a normal sword. Iris quietly notes that Dale altered the bone structure inside the corpse blade, boosting its hardness. Dale leaps high, bringing his modified sword down in a brutal overhead strike that shatters another undead. Felix's face drains. His entire force is gone. He cannot accept that a mage is outclassing him with pure sword skill. Dale marches toward the trembling Felix. Felix collapses, begging for mercy. Dale mocks him, reminding him the pendant will keep him from dying anyway. He swings at Felix's head, breaking the pendant and dropping Felix in defeat. Felix calls him a monster as the shard hits the floor. Iris announces Dale as the sole victor, holding all 60 life points. Dale views this place as his first foothold. On the second floor, he faces a flesh golem. Normally, survivors band together here, but he eliminated everyone, so he advances alone. All magic is permitted. He sees this as the perfect moment to complete the third circle and test his limits. The golem lunges. Dale slips past and tears through its arm. He grins and casts a new spell, Accelerated Decay. The massive body rots, collapsing under its own dissolving tissue. Iris watches, recognizing the spell as something unfamiliar. She questions why he chooses corruption over destruction. Dale recalls how biochemical tactics dominated war in his past life and realizes he is now channeling that terror through dark magic. He clears the floor, breaks records, reaches the 10th level, and earns a 4-day rest. The other 59 are granted a rare retest. That night, he stands alone at a fountain. Sepia appears and congratulates him for his performance. He thanks her, crediting her guidance. Then he unexpectedly asks her to accompany him to a festival. She accepts, assuming it is innocent. They walk through the Necropolis festival under moonlight. Dale notes the beauty of the night sky and tries awkwardly to maintain conversation. Still, silence with her never felt heavy. She always trusted him, and because of that, he wanted to stand closer to her than anyone else. He recalls reaching the third circle, stepping into the mind realm. To break through, he triggered mana overflow. Inside that empty mental world, there was nothing, until Sepia's presence reached toward him. She alone illuminated the void. Watching her beside him now, he realizes that is why he wants her. Without hesitation, he tells her he loves her. She freezes, stunned, asking him to repeat it. He restates it. She hugs him gently, saying she is also very fond of him. Days later, on the morning of the 11th floor trial, Dale notes nothing has changed between them. He assumes she must think it was only childish admiration. With that idea pushed aside, he locked his mind on the challenge ahead. Eris laid out the rules. A single magical duel, 1 against 1, with the victor earning passage to the 12th floor. Dale stood opposite Elbert Rosenheim, a third circle master who made it clear through his actions and attitude that mercy would not be given just because Dale was young. Dale quickly assessed the situation. On this floor, his magic was no longer held back. Artifacts were free to be used, which also meant the life point pendant was no longer a sure shield against death. Elbert gathered his mana, fully intending to prove the difference between them. He launched a rain of dark arrows, each one flying straight toward Dale with deadly aim, meant to crush the confidence of a reckless child. Dale showed no panic. He slipped past the attacks with smooth movements, realizing that Elbert had started too early. Still, no one interfered. Those watching wanted to see what Dale could really do. This place judged only ability, Dale concluded inwardly, while silently blaming Elbert's pride. Irritation twisted Elbert's face as he called forth a swarm of violent shadow spawn, binding them with magic that demanded complete obedience. Dale observed the display with clear disinterest. It felt excessive, though he admitted that Elbert's control was beyond that of the weaker opponents he had beaten before. The undead rushed him, but Dale avoided them with ease. Each failure only deepened Elbert's frustration. Elbert grew desperate, convinced that dodging alone could not bring victory, and forced one of his creations into a self-destructive attack, certain the end was near. Then Dale disappeared. Elbert turned in confusion, unable to track where or when it happened. Before he could react, Dale emerged at his back, calm and mocking in posture. Dale revealed a spectral state drawn from the cloak of shadows, making it clear that the real fight had only begun. Around him, nearby shadow beings awakened, stirred by hunger and movement. Dale allowed them to act, restraining them just enough to prevent chaos. They swarmed Elbert in an instant. His screams echoed as the shadows overwhelmed him. When it ended, Dale recalled the creatures, leaving Elbert collapsed and unconscious on the ground. Eris announced Dale as the winner of the first round. When the next opponent was called, that contestant chose to withdraw, valuing survival over pride. From then on, most challengers followed the same path. Dale advanced again and again, without lifting a hand, fighting only once more before moving on. With every trial, he sharpened his control over his 3 magic circles, defeating each floor guardian in steady order as he climbed. Upon reaching the 20th floor, a true threat finally appeared. The headless knight stepped forth, a guardian personally crafted by an elder of the Black Tower. Its presence alone carried crushing pressure, unlike anything Dale had faced before. Whispers spread among the observers. Even for someone as gifted as Dale, this foe looked like a real wall. Dale simply gave a faint smile. In his mind, an easy path would only have been boring. The battle began, and the crowd fell into shocked silence. In an abrupt reversal, the headless knight dropped to its knees before Dale. Without raising his voice or showing emotion, Dale ordered its end. The guardian responded at once, turning its own weapon on itself and driving it through its chest, collapsing into ruin. Dale observed the result in silence. The loyalty shown was abnormal. A guardian abandoning its duty to obey him instead of its true creator was not something that should happen. The display was impressive, but it also crossed a line. He realized he had overreached. Forcing a construct to turn against a Black Tower elder was not power meant to be revealed so openly. Having confirmed his strength, Dale chose to withdraw. As he headed for the exit, confusion spread among the onlookers. They questioned why he would stop instead of climbing higher. Dale considered this calmly. Even if he advanced, there was a limit he could not pass. Beyond that point, the path no longer belonged to monsters or trials, but to something entirely different, a realm outside reason. With that decision, Dale's trial came to an end. His conclusion marked the closing of the Tower trials themselves. Upon returning, the Tower Master and his son were met with a full military salute. Mages of every rank within the Black Tower, from noble bloodlines to the elders, lowered their heads before Duke Alan Saxon and Dale. Dale's achievements became the spark for a slow unification of the northern lands under House Saxon. Knights rallied under his name, fighting with renewed drive while honoring the Saxon banner. With the Tower trial finished, Dale received new orders from his father to lead a campaign against an orc horde. Despite his age, the burden of command was not questioned. His authority as the true heir of the Black Duke was already accepted. Step by step, Dale strengthened control over the northern territories. When he reported back, he stated that 145 orcs had been slain. When asked about losses, he confirmed that only 3 soldiers suffered minor injuries, with no deaths. When the matter of magical protection came up, Dale denied using it. The outcome, he explained, was the result of pure sword skill passed down through House Saxon. The Duke showed clear approval, praising his son without restraint. Sir Helmet, who had watched Dale lead, noted that the young lord now moved like someone already used to commanding a force the size of a full regiment. Dale gave credit to Helmet's guidance, earning acknowledgement from the veteran knight. Helmet pointed out that Dale had absorbed strategy, tactics, swordplay, and the flow of battle itself, stating that a true territorial war was only a matter of time for him. Dale's thoughts lingered on that future conflict. The idea of a domain war did not trouble him. If anything, it stirred anticipation. The scene shifted to Dale training alongside Charlotte. She rushed at him without hesitation, their blades colliding in fast, sharp exchanges, each strike clean and controlled. After the sparring ended, Dale stated that her technique had improved a little. Charlotte reacted with clear irritation, snapping at him for commenting as if it were his place. Dale wondered if he had pushed his teasing too far. She pointed out that he had already reached the 3rd circle and cleared the 20th floor of the Tower trial, drawing praise from everywhere, and questioned whether he was not already tired of being admired. Dale brushed it off and encouraged her, telling her that her strength would continue to grow. He admitted her talent openly, noting that despite being only 10, her ability stood out. Charlotte lashed back, demanding that he stop treating her like a child. Dale answered with an easy smile, remarking that she still was one. She countered immediately that he was no different. Dale laughed it away, claiming that his mind was already that of an adult thanks to memories from a past life. Later, Sir Helmet resumed instruction with Dale and introduced the hammer and anvil tactic. He laid out how cavalry struck and shattered the enemy's flank, while infantry held the line, trapping the opponent in place, just like metal being crushed against an anvil. Dale pointed out that the tactic relied entirely on the strength of the Black Cavalry, thinking that the core rules of war had never truly changed, no matter the era. He then asked about Charlotte's progress. Helmet confirmed that her training was solid, though she was still far from his own level. Her fundamentals were settling into place, and she would soon move on to aura control and the sword style of House Saxon. Still, Helmet raised a concern. Before he could expand, Dale guessed the issue himself, realizing it was about whether Charlotte's natural style would fit with the family's techniques. The narration clarified that just as mages refined mana through circles, knights shaped it into aura. And much like mages built towers, knights formed orders to protect and pass down their sword arts. The Black Cavalry of House Saxon, tied to the Night Raven Order, focused on direct power and crushing force. Charlotte's approach favored speed and movement instead. She might one day reach the level of the Seven Swords, but she would never attain the first sword, the highest position among them, once held by her father. Helmet regretted that the Sword of Blossom style had been lost with the fall of the Night Kingdom. That thought left Dale wondering whether the technique was truly gone or simply hidden. As Dale continued strengthening his name through harsh training and constant monster hunts, the moment came for his growth to be tested. A messenger arrived before the Duke with troubling news. Baron Parker, a minor noble, had declared ownership over a copper mine already under Saxon control and formally demanded a domain war. Dale instantly saw the move as reckless. The messenger added that Archduke Brandenburg had agreed to support the Baron in return for a share of the mine and would send the Order of St. Magdalena as military backing. Dale immediately understood Brandenburg's intent. It was not about the mine, but a calculated act of revenge for the humiliation Duke Alan Saxon had once inflicted on him. The moment for conflict had arrived, and Dale understood that it was both a trial and a demand to act. He turned toward his father, steady and unyielding, and formally asked for permission to march with the Knights of House Saxon. He expressed his desire to lead the army himself in the coming war, but the Duke's response cut him off immediately. Duke Alan rejected the request without hesitation. He made it clear that it was far too soon for Dale to carry such responsibility. He cautioned him against careless words, stressing that war between people was nothing like fighting monsters. The rebuke hit hard. The sharp light in Dale's eyes dulled, and his certainty cracked into silent disappointment. Shifting focus, Duke Alan addressed Baron Greenbelt and reassured him that his mines would remain under protection. The Baron bowed again and again, gratitude evident in every movement. Watching from the side, Dale felt the weight of refusal tighten in his chest. That night, he sought out his uncle Helmet and explained everything that had happened. His frustration showed as he admitted how deeply it bothered him. He believed without doubt that he could outperform any commander, yet his father refused to rely on him. Helmet listened without interrupting and advised him to let go of his anger. He reasoned that Duke Alan surely had reasons of his own, even if they felt unfair. Then Helmet revealed something unexpected. He produced a board game, one designed to reflect the structure and flow of war. Dale leaned in at once, catching the meaning behind it without effort. This was not a simple game, but a test of thought and foresight. Helmet was clearly amused by how quickly Dale understood. He explained that mastering this game could sharpen strategic sense far more than endless weapon drills. Before Helmet could finish, Dale grabbed the board, determination flashing across his face. He left immediately, already set on his next move. Helmet called after him in confusion, but Dale did not turn around. Soon after, Dale stood in front of Duke Alan again, the board held tightly in his hands. He demanded to be judged through strategy instead of words, asking for a fair test of ability through the game itself. If he proved superior, he wanted command in the coming war. Duke Alan stared at him, stunned by his persistence. Dale did not back down. His posture was firm, conviction burning in his eyes. He laid out his belief that real war was not decided by strength alone, but by planning, judgment, and control. Helmet stepped in awkwardly, attempting to smooth things over and excuse the young lord's boldness. Duke Alan silenced him with a raised hand. Interest sharpened his expression. He agreed to the challenge under one condition. If Dale lost, he would completely give up the idea of joining the battlefield. The match began. Silence filled the room as father and son took their places across the board. Every move carried weight, thick with pressure and focus. Dale's thoughts moved like a sharpened edge, fast and exact. He measured each strike, traced every possible counter, and read traps before they formed. Before long, the unlikely outcome became real. He claimed victory in 2 of the 3 rounds. Helmet could hardly process what he was seeing. Even with Duke Alan stacking the field in his own favor, stronger pieces and superior placement, Dale still broke through and won. When the last piece was removed, Dale looked up at his father. His manner was steady and firm as he pressed for the Duke to keep his word. Duke Alan released a slow breath, the corner of his mouth lifting just slightly. He wondered when Dale had learned a game like this. Dale offered a casual explanation. saying he had picked up the rules long ago from an old book in the library. The Duke gave a brief nod and let the matter pass. A vow had been made, and it would be kept. Duke Allen confirmed that Dale would take command of the knights in the coming campaign. For a brief moment, Dale struggled to breathe. Pride and excitement surged through him at once. Helmet stood stunned, unable to react. Then the Duke's mood shifted. His voice turned heavy, emphasizing that the name of House Saxon would now rest on Dale alone. There would be no room for failure. In an uncharacteristically gentle pause, Duke Allen checked whether his son truly grasped the burden he was taking on. Dale met his father's eyes without flinching, his resolve firm, making it clear he would not fall short. The Duke's hard expression eased. He dismissed Dale afterward, signaling that it was time to prove the worth of his training. Not long after, far away in Mockburg, the towering castle of Count Brandenburg loomed under a dark, overcast sky. Inside its massive stone halls, anger rang out unchecked. Count Brandenburg's rage echoed as he berated his son, Philip, veins standing out on his brow. He accused him of drinking again and wasting time among the slums, his fury growing louder by the second. Whispers were already spreading that the young heir of House Saxon would soon march at the head of knights, while Brandenburg's own son disgraced himself. The Count demanded to know what Philip had been doing while his rival prepared for war. Philip showed no concern at all. He answered with a lazy grin, brushing off the situation as meaningless. To him, the heir of House Saxon was nothing more than a child, a weak runt barely worth notice. With smug confidence, he made it clear that he intended to crush that brat from House Saxon without effort. He bragged openly, claiming that both he and his father's knights could deal with the problem without effort. That was when Count Brandenburg's restraint finally broke. He slammed his hand onto the table, harder than before, the force shaking goblets and making Philip flinch. His rage boiled over as he hurled Philip's own words back at him in disbelief, branding the Saxon heir as nothing more than a runt and an arrogant child. His eyes burned with fury as he made it clear that the boy Philip mocked was something far beyond his reach. It was a monster whose shadow Philip could not touch even after 100 years of striving. The Count went further, tearing into his son, calling him useless, and beneath even that 10-year-old youth, Philip stood stiff. The confidence he had worn cracked apart as the insult cut deep. The storm of anger cooled into a hard, bitter resolve as the Count's thoughts shifted inward. He regretted not acting sooner concerning Charlotte. After a heavy silence, he turned back with cold authority and announced that, in the approaching battle, command of their knights would be placed in Philip's hands. Philip's face lit up at once, excitement rushing through him as he accepted without hesitation. The Count's expression darkened again. He mocked his son sharply, questioning what there was to be happy about, then crushed the moment by making it clear that Philip's role would be a hollow symbol. True authority, he stated, would rest with the adjutant Lord Milvers. Confusion twisted Philip's expression as he tried to understand, but the Count dismissed him entirely and ordered Milvers to escort Philip out at once. Milvers gave a restrained bow. Left alone, Count Brandenburg released a long, angry breath, his thoughts churning with frustration. Given the choice, he would have led the troops himself, yet striking down a child with full force would drag his name through the dirt. His fists tightened as a more unsettling idea settled in his mind. Perhaps this outcome had been planned all along by Duke Saxon. Several days later, the scene shifted to Castle Greenbelt, where tension hung thick in the air. Soldiers and nobles gathered, waiting for the arrival of their new commander, the young heir of House Saxon. Baron Greenbelt stood near the gates, nerves clear as he adjusted his coat time and again while Dale approached. He greeted the boy with a strained smile, his unease showing despite his efforts. Behind him, quiet murmurs spread through the crowd. Some whispered in disbelief, unable to accept that their commander was just a child. One scoffed softly, doubting whether the boy could even swing a sword. Another remarked that the child was said to be a prodigy, and that underestimating him might be a mistake. Low laughter and uncertainty mixed together. Baron Greenbelt forced himself to stay composed, praising Dale by saying that his presence alone brought relief, that seeing him inspired belief and hope for victory. Dale acknowledged the words with calm gratitude, his expression steady. Even so, hidden beneath the Baron's polite manner, doubt still remained. Could someone that young truly command soldiers on a battlefield? Even with the black cavalry at his back, Dale was still only 10 years old, far younger than anyone expected for such responsibility. Summoning his nerve, Baron Greenbelt proposed escorting Dale to a banquet arranged in his honor, noting that the kitchen staff had worked for hours to prepare it. Dale rejected the idea at once, his refusal calm and firm, making it clear there was no time to spare. The Baron hesitated, caught off guard, and unsure of what the young lord intended. Without warning, Dale drew his sword and leveled it toward Baron Greenbelt. Despite the light smile on his face, the intent behind the gesture was sharp and direct. Before anything else, Dale intended to examine the state of the troops. His eyes moved across the gathered soldiers. In a steady, commanding manner, he demanded to know who among them was the strongest. The Baron began to tremble, lost and uncertain how to respond. Dale pressed the question again, his tone even but unyielding, asking who stood at the top of the Baron's forces. Frozen by fear, the Baron remained silent. At that moment, a red-haired soldier stepped forward. He claimed that no one present could defeat him. Inside, however, his thoughts were full of contempt. To him, this was nothing but a spoiled noble child wielding authority given by birth alone, swinging a sword as if he owned the place. He resolved to teach the boy a lesson himself. The soldier jabbed his thumb toward his own chest and openly declared himself the strongest. Dale caught the meaning behind the man's words immediately. Baron Greenbelt, on the other hand, felt the blood drain from his body. One of his own knights was openly disrespecting a child from a high noble house who had been placed in full command. Dale calmly lowered his sword. A brief, almost amused laugh escaped him as he spoke plainly about the situation. He made it clear that everyone present doubted his ability, believing he was nothing more than a 10-year-old suddenly handed control of an important battle without reason. Driving his sword into the ground, Dale spread his arms toward the Baron. Doubt, he explained, went both ways. Just as they questioned him, he did not believe the knights trusted their own strength, and in his view, there was only one way to remove doubt: through steel. With a dark edge to his expression, Dale pointed out the so-called strongest knight the Baron seemed so proud of. The man was barely sober, barely standing on discipline alone. There was no need for questioning. The knight's conduct already proved Dale's concerns. The red-haired soldier snapped. Rage surged through him as he drew his blade and aimed it directly at Dale. His pride as a knight burned hot, and he declared his intent to prove the worth of the Baron's steel through combat, staking his honor on it. Dale was openly entertained by the turn of events. At that point, he already knew the clash would not be dull. Soon after, Dale and Harbuck stood opposite one another, both fully ready to fight. The surrounding knights closed in around them, forming a tight ring that left no room to retreat. Dale studied Harbuck and calmly brought up that rumors about his sword had likely reached him. Harbuck answered with a short laugh, making it clear that he was aware of the strange blade Dale carried. Dale's expression tightened slightly as he questioned the source of such bold confidence. He wondered whether Harbuck truly believed his arms carried overwhelming strength. Harbuck gave no reply. Instead, he drew his blade and attacked first. Dale reacted at once, stopping the strike with shadow magic. Harbuck pressed on without pause, swinging again and again with raw force. Each attack was met cleanly, Dale blocking every blow with exact timing. As the exchange continued, Dale watched closely. Harbuck's sword carried no aura. That detail stood out. Aura blades were reserved for high-ranking knights, yet despite the limit, Harbuck fought with all he had. Dale acknowledged that effort at least. With that thought, Dale shifted gears and struck back using controlled shadow tactics. Harbuck failed to understand what he was facing. The movements and angles were unnatural. Still, he tried cutting through the shadows by force alone. Confusion crept in. He couldn't grasp why Dale's attacks kept coming, or why his own artificial aura refused to respond. Dale continued advancing without hesitation. In his eyes, Harbuck's skill level was nothing special. Before that thought fully settled, the fight ended. Harbuck suddenly crumpled to the ground. Baron Greenbelt's eyes flew open in shock. He rushed forward, calling out in alarm as he dropped to his knees beside the fallen knight. Panic set in as he demanded to know what had happened and what Dale had done. Even Dale was caught off guard. He questioned how the knight could fall so easily. The Baron, still shaken, accused the young lord of harming one of their most important fighters right before a major battle. Dale responded with controlled politeness, addressing the Baron directly. He made it clear that accusations should wait until the situation was understood. If that level of strength was all Harbuck possessed, then he would only slow them down once the battle began. He ended by questioning whether the Baron's true intention was to let House Saxon handle all the fighting while others stood back and watched. The Baron went rigid, unease plain on his face. Dale moved closer, blade leveled forward. He questioned whether this man truly counted as one of the Baron's key knights, someone meant to strengthen the force rather than weaken it. Raising his sword slightly, Dale made his stance clear. House Saxon would never hesitate to shield Greenbelt's domain, but it would not tolerate negligence in return. Until the battle reached its end, the duchy's knights would act as a blade in service, but only for a lord who upheld his responsibility. Then his voice rang out across the camp, firm and absolute. He forced the Baron to choose whether to stand with him or fall due to his own weakness. At those words, every soldier present dropped to one knee, offering their loyalty without hesitation. The scene shifted elsewhere, to Duchess Elena, overcome with grief as she cried for her son, devastated that he had gone forward alone. Duke Alan Saxon stayed by her side, calming her gently. He reassured her that there was no reason for fear, reminding her that their son possessed far greater potential than she realized. As long as Dale continued to grow, he would rise above every concern. One day, he would stand above the world itself. The focus returned to Dale. He stood in silence, deep in thought. He acknowledged inwardly that ignorance left no hope. Right now, he was little more than a frog trapped in a well, only beginning to grasp how strange and vast this world truly was. His thoughts drifted to the man of holy authority. That figure must have acted after understanding the condition of this land. If that was true, then Dale knew he had to prepare a plan of his own. The next day, morning broke outside the castle, where Dale supervised training for the entire force. Harbuck, still not fully recovered, struggled to drag a huge stone. Before long, his strength gave out and he collapsed in exhaustion. Another knight urged him to continue, but Harbuck had already reached his limit. Dale watched from a raised platform nearby, shaped almost like a throne. Sir Bale stood at his right side, respectful and still. On the other side, a knight harshly berated Harbuck for failing such basic training. Harbuck attempted to defend himself, but the scolding knight refused to hear it. Dale turned his attention to Sir Bale and pointed out calmly that nothing was being done to stop this. Sir Bale gave a slight bow in response. Dale then stated that Baron Greenbelt's knight needed to be informed. Dale made it clear that everything, beginning with basic stamina training, showed they were entirely unfit for real combat. Sir Bale agreed at once. Dale then gave new instructions. A messenger was to be sent into Baron Parker's territory to propose negotiations. Sir Bale reacted with visible surprise at the order. The idea of negotiations at this stage caught him off guard. Dale showed quiet amusement. He had no intention of accepting peace terms that would humiliate them. There was simply someone he wanted to meet before the fighting began. Several days later, a negotiation camp was set up along the tense border separating the two baronies. Inside one of the central tents, Dale sat calmly in a chair, while his knight remained at his side in silence. Resting his interlocked fingers beneath his chin, Dale examined the situation with focused thought. If events continued on the same path, the Order of St. Magdalena, already strained by a distant campaign and limited supplies, would soon be pushed into a reckless all-or-nothing move. At the same time, Dale understood that Baron Parker's own knights were not an enemy to dismiss lightly. While he was absorbed in these thoughts, his knight informed him that Lord Philip had entered the tent. The moment Dale saw the group, the power structure became obvious. Philip, the eldest son of Count Brandenburg, was little more than a figure on display. The true authority stood with the veteran commander positioned behind him. Philip took a seat, and Dale offered a courteous greeting. Philip answered with a mocking grin, suggesting that the conflict had grown beyond control and that Dale's push for talks was proof of fear. Dale saw through the bait and calmly countered the idea, suggesting that the same fear might be the reason Philip had agreed to come as well. Philip quickly rejected the notion, insisting that fear had nothing to do with his presence. Before he could go further, Dale cut him off and began to clarify his point. Dale made it clear that Philip had never been the one he was speaking to in the first place. His words had been aimed at the real commander standing behind him. Philip, in Dale's eyes, was nothing more than a symbol, placed on the battlefield without any real power. Sir Milvis froze in brief shock. Very few people, even among their own side, knew that Count Brandenburg saw Philip as a failure with no talent. Yet Dale spoke as if this hidden truth was common knowledge. Dale continued, pointing out that Philip should understand better than anyone what it felt like to be distrusted by his own father. Sir Milvis immediately understood what Dale was trying to do. He declared that the talks should end at once, and told Philip there was no reason to remain. Philip, however, was already seething. Dale's remarks had cut deep. Dale pressed further, noting that Philip acted as though he needed approval just to speak. The way he followed a subordinate's lead made him look more like a servant than the heir of a noble house. The insult only fueled Philip's rage. Calm as ever, Dale added that Philip barely resembled the first son of a count and instead looked like a master being dragged along by his own servant. Sir Milvis tried again to intervene, urging Philip to keep control. He clearly saw Dale's aim: shatter their command structure and break their unity before the battle even began. Philip ignored the warning and lashed out in anger. Dale leaned back with ease, watching their internal collapse with quiet interest. In his mind, Philip was nothing more than a puppet. Dale wondered who truly pulled his strings, the Holy Swordsman or Sir Milvis, since Philip's actions were dictated entirely by others. At that moment, Dale knew the plan had worked. He had never come to bargain. The goal had always been to fracture their chain of command. Dale then ordered the knight at his side to step outside. The knight complied without a word and left the tent. With that, only Dale and Philip remained in the dim interior. Dale slowly placed both hands flat on the table, steady and intentional, signaling that the real exchange was about to begin. With calm authority, he made it clear that now that no one else was present, they could speak as true commanders, those who carried full responsibility for the battlefield's outcome. Philip, still shaking with anger, struggled to steady himself. His jaw was tight, his breathing rough, but he forced a sharp nod. Before he could fully regain control, Sir Milvis attempted one final warning. He reminded Philip of Dale's strategy and urged caution, telling him not to be drawn in by provocation. Philip turned on him with a burning stare, filled with pride and wounded arrogance. He coldly reminded Milvis who held supreme command. The words hit harder than the glare. For a brief moment, the veteran commander felt a chill. No matter Philip's flaws, he was still the son of Count Brandenburg, and dealing with the eldest son of House Saxon now rested solely on Milvis's shoulders. Yet with every passing second, it became clear that Dale had been guiding them from the start. Accepting that the situation was beyond saving, Sir Milvis lowered his head slightly and followed Philip's order without objection. He exited the tent in silence, the fabric falling closed behind him and leaving Philip fully exposed before Dale. Once alone, Dale offered a polite thanks to Lord Philip for agreeing to a private exchange. There was a quiet weight in Dale's tone, less gratitude and more control, as he calmly drew Philip's attention back to the true reason the negotiation had been forced in the first place. Philip, torn between anger and uncertainty, managed to ask whether Dale had any concrete demands, either for continued fighting or for a possible withdrawal. Dale leaned in, planting both hands flat on the table. His voice stayed steady, his expression firm with total confidence. He laid out a single condition. If the Knights of St. Magdalena withdrew from the battlefield at once, House Saxon would see to it that they received all supplies needed for a safe return. Philip's temper snapped almost immediately. He slammed his hands down so hard the table shook, dismissing the proposal as meaningless and accusing Dale of treating a serious matter like a child's game. Dale remained unmoved by the display. Calm and measured, he offered an apology for earlier ridicule, openly admitting that he had provoked Philip on purpose. Then his explanation turned cold and precise. If Philip refused to pull back, once the battle started, thousands of his knights would die. Those who survived would be captured. When word spread, all the blame, shame, and disgrace would land squarely on Philip. Not on Sir Milvis, not on any subordinate, on Philip alone. Dale's face hardened further as he made it clear that such a disaster would not stop there. Even Count Brandenburg's name would suffer, and the honor of their entire house would be dragged through the dirt. The weight of those words settled heavily on Philip, squeezing his chest. For the first time since entering the tent, he fully grasped how severe the outcome could be. Dale pressed on without mercy, stressing that this was Philip's last chance to protect more than his own name. It was his final chance to guard his family's legacy. Philip forced an uneasy, twisted smile. He admitted that Sir Milvis had been right all along. Dale's true goal was to shame him and break his confidence. Dale rested his chin on his folded fingers, answering with quiet control. He claimed he was simply stating facts. This was Philip's final opportunity, and despite the act, Philip did not look nearly as confident as he pretended. Dale ended by laying out one last, brutal truth. If defeat came, responsibility would not fall on Sir Milvis. It would rest entirely on Philip's shoulders as the officially appointed Supreme Commander. Every accusation, every failure, every mark on their reputation would strike Count Brandenburg's eldest son directly. Philip struggled to maintain a stiff, fabricated smile, trying to salvage some dignity. He claimed Dale would not stay calm for long, and that he would prove in front of everyone who truly commanded the battlefield. Dale stayed composed, responding that confidence was fine, as long as Philip could keep it when the next stage began. With the tense talks finished, the focus shifted to Baron Greenbelt's castle. Some time had passed since the negotiation. High above, on the rooftop of the opposing fortress, Sir Milvas stood upright with several of his knights, surveying the land spread out below. One of the knights carefully watched the Greenbelt estate through a spyglass, tracking every movement from afar. Sir Milvas demanded a status update, and the knight reported that House Saxon's main force was finally on the move, fully armed and ready for battle. The report stirred Milvas's memory. Dale's calm face during the negotiations resurfaced in his mind, an expression that refused to fade. Despite his age, the boy had shown no trace of fear or doubt. There had been no hesitation in his posture or words. That composure alone proved Dale was no novice. His experience and restraint had been obvious in every small action. Milvas muttered that Dale's youth could still be turned into an advantage. He drew his sword in a sharp motion, his face darkening as he made his intent clear to those around him. He planned to be the one who would force that child to learn a painful lesson. The surrounding knights erupted in unison, their voices rising as they eagerly echoed the sentiment, fully convinced they would crush the young commander. Far away, near the barren outskirts of Greenbelt's castle, one of Dale's knights came running toward him, breath heavy and face drained of color. He reported that Sir Milvas's main force had begun advancing toward their position. Dale showed no reaction beyond a quiet nod, as if the news carried no pressure at all. He lifted his sword and directed it toward his assembled knights, signaling that the moment had arrived for House Saxon to live up to its name. This battle, he made clear, would prove that their bloodline deserved every ounce of reputation it carried. The knights answered with a fierce roar, repeating the resolve of their young commander without the slightest hesitation, their will solid and unbroken.